What's up? What is going on, everyone? Current price right now is 61,000. Kind of just hovering there for the last few hours.
Whoa, are we gonna be all right?
We're gonna be all right. Oh, pretty honestly, from the last space we had, Matt, like honestly, I think all of our predictions kind of came true.
Yep.
Even though it was like 3 days ago, was it 2 days ago? I don't even remember. It wasn't that long ago.
It was just 48 hours ago. Even the ones we didn't, um, even the ones we didn't want to come true. That was. I would have
Well,
liked to
we
avoid some of those. They didn't
yeah, but we kind
have to happen.
they had like when we predicted that stretch was going to depeg even more. That obviously comes along with the Bitcoin price continuing to deteriorate, right? Which I don't know. I forget what you said, but I said is like it's pretty likely at this point that I think when we last talked, I think we were at like 60. Let me look at the chart, but I think we were at like 64 or something
Yep. Yep.
when we were
Yep.
talking. It was the first. Yeah, I think we were at 64-ish, 65-ish or whatever when we last talked.
Stretch was like 96, 97. It
Yeah,
wasn't. It was a couple dollars off 100, but it wasn't.
10 cents or whatever it is.
Wasn't.
I don't even know what
It
it closed
wasn't
at
like
today.
this.
I don't know what it
I
closed at today.
think the low was like 91. Maybe it bounced back to
Well,
93, but.
it's not even
Yeah.
worth buying it. Like there's people out there that were like, "Oh yeah, perfect time to buy. You can get the 8 or 9% cap gain when it repegs and continue to get paid." But like,
No,
no, no.
no,
Like even
no.
forget about all the risks that we talked about, but just like think about it in terms of opportunity cost. Like, look,
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the lowest daily RSI literally in the existence of Bitcoin since it's been recording prices. Like
Literally
I
lower daily RSI than the
yeah.
COVID crash.
Yeah, then well no, lower than that. It's
That's what
lower.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Lower than the COVID
Yeah,
crash.
lower than the COVID crash and I think it's like on par with the 2018 crash when we
Dang.
basically mid
Yeah.
2018 after it already crashed and then it just hovered I think around like 8k or something or 10k and then it crashed down to like 3300 or something in mid 18. It's
Yeah.
roughly that. So yeah, like opportunity cost alone, you're like, should I buy stretch and get 10% gain, maybe, and then get my 11% dividend, or can I buy Bitcoin at the
It's
lowest
not and it's not 11% dividend the next payout. It's 11% if you can
next
hold it
year?
for a year. So
Yeah.
like everyone keeps making that mistake. It's like, yeah, see, it's like nine, it's at 91, so it's 9 plus 11. And I'm like, sure, over a year.
Yeah, so there's that. So yeah, just the opportunity cost alone is like a big no-no. But
Yeah.
Bitcoin, holy fuck. I thought it was gonna chill out at the 200 weekly moving average. Well,
Yep.
I thought to myself that it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to chill at the 200 weekly moving average, a 50% chance, or the other 50% chance it's going to basically sweep the February lows, which it did, right?
Yeah, 60. Yeah.
Slightly by like
Slight.
I think
Yeah.
like $500 or whatever. I think it got down to I got a buy in today at 59. Let me just check. I don't want to be lying. Let me
You told
check.
me, I think I saw you post 59, whatever.
Oh, that was yeah, that was one of them, but my lowest fill today was 59,382 and 25 cents. I don't know if it got lower than that. It most likely
Right.
did. But it got basically a few $100 lower than the February's low, which was like 59,980 something or whatever it was, just slightly under 60. So it swept those, but
Yep.
now that it was one of those two outcomes, basically grind at the 200 weekly moving average and basically either consolidate or do distribution, or basically sweep the February lows. And it swept the February lows. But I thought that if we sweep the February lows, that whatever it swept to, whether it just under, which we did, or whether we swept down all the way to 58, because that's where I thought it could potentially sweep to. I thought that, okay, if it does the sweep wherever it is between 58 and like 59, it's going to bounce aggressively. Because remember when we first got down to the 60 in February, it was 70K the next fucking day.
Yep.
Like, it bounced 10K, and so right now it is showing zero, absolutely zero signs of life of any type of bounce, and it's literally just grinding lower. Like we bounced from okay, it looks like it got as low as 59,100 and some change, and it bounced back up to 62. So it literally bounced back about 2,000 or round up 3,000, and then it just started rolling over again, and now it's basically hovering at that kind of medium point at basically 60,900. So that bounce is incredibly weak. So to me, if I was just going to take a bet or a guess, to me that screams weakness, and that is going to go lower. um, and I thought that it could potentially go lower, right? Whether it swept down to 58, or just where we got
Yeah.
to in 59. I thought that there would be a bigger bounce, and then it would take a prolonged period of time to get even lower, right? Because the daily RSI is so oversold that, like, you'd think that at some point there's just going to be some massive
Some
rebound bounce.
reflexive bounce.
Some
Yeah.
reflexive bounce to like
Yep.
66, 67,000, or even 65, 66 something. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Um, and
But you might get that.
there's
You
no
might get
catalyst.
that Monday though.
No, but this is
Just an
I
oversold bounce.
no,
I
but
mean,
I think Monday in equities is going to
yeah.
be bloody. It can't be as bloody as today. Like we just had this most
S
drop single point in like Nasdaq
yeah.
history.
Well, right. But so that's oh, and I see TXMC is in the audience.
No, I think he's
Um,
speaking. I think he's up here.
oh,
Maybe
great.
or
I
maybe
think
I don't know.
I think we were in a different space. And what's interesting to me was, I think what we were sensing a week ago was, wow, Bitcoin is super weak and keeps bleeding lower and lower. And it looks, and I have a sneaky suspicion that it's the canary in the coal mine, and it's signaling what the rest of the market is going to do. Like, clearly things are going risk off.
Oh, we
You're
we
seeing,
said that
right.
weeks ago.
That's what right. That's my point. And then so today was that final correlation to one where it didn't matter what the asset was. It was Bitcoin, it was silver, it was gold, it was Mag 7, it was AI, it was semis, it was even oil. Everything was red today with that correlation to one. So
Yeah,
it's
but the thing is,
possible. Yeah,
but the
go ahead.
thing
Yeah.
is though, like if everything else is red, like are you gonna have one day of correlation of one, and then Bitcoin's like, okay, this is the bottom, I'm gonna go up now? Like that, I highly doubt.
Well,
Uh,
one thing we've seen, in past in this cycle and the previous cycle, let's see if there's a bounce, say Saturday night or Sunday night, and then
to me that
watch
looks.
markets, and then watch markets do it have a bounce Monday morning, like call it nine
It
thirty to
doesn't
10.
look like it because one of the reasons why I don't think a bounce is going to happen Monday is because one,
Yeah.
Asian markets are opening up first, and I think they're going to be fucking reacting to Americans Friday, and so I think it's going to nuke, and that's probably going to nuke Bitcoin into a Sunday dip. And then on Monday, you're going to have margin calls for all the fucking idiots who fucking were super long on Friday. There's going to be margin calls in equity land. So I don't see Monday being good, specifically with what is currently happening in Iran at the moment, right? Like we were on the verge, or what it seemed to be on the verge of a peace deal like this week, right? But now you have Iran firing ballistic missiles once again at Kuwait and Kuwait and other countries, and the U.S. basically hitting Karg Island. That's an escalation. That's a literal escalation in the conflict now that they're taking shots at Karg Island. So like, I don't think we're getting a fucking peace deal this weekend. Like, that's for sure, right? So there's real no catalyst, other than like Bitcoin being the most it's ever been oversold. Like, there's no real market catalyst for it to have a bounce, right? But that's not to say that one can't happen, right? Because it is so fucking oversold. but it just nothing seems to be
Yeah.
happening this weekend that will be like, yes, we need something that gives a little bit of a budge to it to give it a pump, right? And I think everything today, and you said this, Matt, and I've faded it every time you brought it up about jobs, and
Yep.
the jobs actually did the opposite of creating a pump. I think they threw fear into a hike. Because looking at Poly Market about is there going to be a hike in 2026? Today alone basically jumped up from like, I think it was like high 30%. Now it's like over 50% last I looked. So there's a huge scare now that there's going to be a hike, and that threw everything.
Yeah.
I
In
I
the
think
back half of the year,
yeah, I
it's
think
possible.
I literally think that's what sent everything over the edge was now that there's a substantial risk of there being a hike.
Yeah. They
I
have
still
to. Yep. They have to recalculate what if we have
a
a
right
hike
hiking
in the back
cycle.
half of this year. Yeah, like zero, like forget cut, zero cut, and
But
now potentially a
but
hike.
the
Yeah.
I honestly think though, like I still don't think we're gonna get a hike. But if we do, it's gonna be
Yep.
sooner than later. It can't. It's not gonna be the end of the year.
But
It
yeah, I don't think we're going to get a hike either because they don't just hike once. They'd hike. It'd be like 25, 25, 25. It'd be like three hikes, three meetings in a row. They
yeah.
don't just do one here and
No,
then
because
let's. You
even
know.
Powell's last cutting cycle, or if you can even call it a cutting
Yeah.
cycle, that's an abnormal. Like you're right. Like that cutting part, like doing a half-ass cut, that was like very abnormal, right? Like historically, you're right. It's usually like they do a massive wave of cuts, and then they move to like a pause, and then a massive wave
Yeah.
of hikes, and then so on and so forth. There's no like Tourette's, right? So that's why I doubt that they're going to hike, because like how stupid do you look as a institution if you hike in June and then you start cutting in December? It makes
Yeah.
it looks like you had a policy
No
mistake.
credibility. Yeah, you're flipping flopping. You're
You would
helter
look
skelter.
like the Fed in 1929.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
We're up. We're down. No wait. Yeah.
right. Because I still think that there could possibly be a rate cut in December. And like I said before, it
Yeah.
all comes down to when this Iran, well, not even the wrong Iran conflict, but when the straits open, how fast as it can be open, and then if that happens, I think you see, well, it's
Yeah.
going to take 3 or 4 or 5 CPI and PPI report numbers coming out for
Yeah.
the inflation to finally cook its way through and work its way through to where you could actually see inflation being basically back down into the 2 number handle,
Yeah.
coming into December, right?
Well, I think that's exactly why they won't hike because
I
they'll
agree, yeah.
they'll the Fed board will say it, talking heads will say it. Everyone keeps repeating that. Like even when you hike or when you cut, don't expect those effects for 6 months minimum, more like 12 months. So if if later there's a peace deal signed sometime in the summer or even in the fall, you look real silly promising hikes and conducting hikes that are, suddenly a moot point and solving for a problem that doesn't exist anymore if you open the strait and you have a peace deal.
Yeah, yeah. What's up, TX?
What's going on, fellas?
Nothing, just reveling in the chart.
Yeah, I was looking at the RSI earlier because I was like, how did we get so low so fast? And I was trying, I was like comparing it to May 2022, which is basically like the place we're at in the bear market, and it looks almost exactly the same. And uh, the way that it worked back then, like the price started breaking down, and basically RSI in the early May, RSI was like in the 30s at the place that fractally we were at on Monday. But then it took like 4 more weeks or so before price actually broke down and created new lows for 2022. But in our case, we did it in 4 fucking days.
Yeah,
And
they
so all
didn't
of a
wait.
sudden,
They're like, I'm out. I'm out.
yeah, yeah, it
Dump
went up
it
seven
all.
times faster. So we we broke down to new lows in 4 fucking days, and what do you know? We have the most oversold daily RSI of
Yeah, it
six,
just
Yeah.
five and
so
a half,
so
6 years.
That's how
yeah
much
so
PTSD there is out there.
well. I
Everyone is. worried about 2022 redux, so they are just like
Yeah.
sell now, ask questions later.
I don't even think. Well, one, I think it's a psychological part with the cycle theory where they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to sell into this weakness, but it doesn't matter because we're going to hit our low in October, right? That's one. Two,
Yeah.
there's so many convergences happening right now that's basically allowing this. This, like, I honestly think that this market move down is really kind of a mechanical thing, honestly, more so than anything else. But like, you have because it's like I don't, TX, you watch TA more than anyone, but like this move down has been like the perfect TA that like I've ever fucking seen. Like that everything was following exactly how it was supposed to go. And even like all the comparisons of like sweeping the February lows, like it's everything's to a fucking point, and so it seems so mechanical. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
ultimately so many things are converging, right? Like you have the Iran conflict where I think there's a lot of intersectionality with Iran and Bitcoin that a lot of people don't talk about. There is the biggest bubble, in my opinion, or even if you don't want to call it bubble, but like the biggest market sector growth in like since the dot-com bubble in the
Yeah.
AI,
We're
where
pumping it. We're pumping it.
every
Pumping it up.
single piece of like liquid capital that can move is getting sucked in to the AI bubble, right? And Bitcoin being like a fairly, probably the most liquid asset there is globally, at least. Everything's just leaving and going into the AI and AI bubble in any which way it can get, right? That also converged with miraculously the whole literal implosion of the Michael Saylor psychosis with he's created himself basically to be on a pedestal of never sell your Bitcoin. Like the entire shtick that this guy has run on in his company has been never sell your Bitcoin. And just so happens where all these other things are converging, he goes out and then basically soft launches that he's going to sell and then telling everyone why it's great. And then he sells. And the interesting part was like he meant to do this in not actually any meaningful way, but like the psychological trigger that it
Yep.
clearly has created. Obviously, it's not the only thing, but that to converge at the same time of him selling 32 Bitcoins, all this psychosis going through, and now you have the Zcash hack coming out. Like so many things are converging, and now you have a re-escalation in the Iran war today. All these things are converging to just like getting Bitcoin the most oversold it's ever, literally ever
Yeah.
has been.
Well, there's
Yeah.
the one difference that I see from here to compared to 2022 is we haven't had the crypto Bitcoin rehypothecation disaster. You know, remember the clear. I clearly remember like it was yesterday that May and June 2022 when Do Kwon was so overconfident and then they shorted
Yeah.
him to shit and we plunged like a stone straight through the 200 week. No, don't don't pass go, don't collect $200. There was no hint of support there. We plunged straight through it like a hole through the earth's crust, and that was purely because of the rehypothecation every way to Sunday and the whole crypto winter and et cetera. Doesn't mean it can't happen again, but so far, knock on wood, knock on all the wood, we haven't had that shoe to drop.
Yeah. You were talking about the mechanical move, Magoo. So I put the chart, which you've seen now, up in the nest, and it's just a 1 hour chart of the past week. And I have a 1221 EMA band, which is a pretty tight EMA band. That's what I use. I use it a lot. I use it on all different
Look
time
how
frames.
mechanical that is.
Look
Jesus.
how it just hugs it all the way down. It never really breaks down strongly, like a couple hours here and there, but it just hugs that all the way down for basically from Sunday until right now.
Yeah, that's so fucking mechanical. And like the interesting thing is like today there was so much volume. And honestly there's so like I'll just give you one exchange and one example. Obviously this isn't like everything, but on Coinbase today there's only been 1.7 billion in volume on spot Bitcoin, but on the derivative sides there's been 7.5 billion of trading volume on the derivative side. So there is a a lot of volume that's been going across hands. And I think a lot of the selling has been on Coinbase, like Coinbase negative premium. Like a lot of this selling is coming from Coinbase.
Sure. Well, any ETF selling would be on Coinbase too, right?
Yeah,
So
not
it's like,
necessarily, but
is
most of it, yes.
no? Yeah. I mean, all the major spot ETFs are Coinbase.
That's for their custody, but there's no guarantee that it's actually exchanging on Coinbase. It could be anywhere, to be honest with you.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, just to get right down to it, um, you think, I mean, it's hard to deny. It looks weak. It looks like weakness. Hope we'll see what the weekend it's a long weekend. We'll see what Asia says. We'll see what
Wait, it's a long
the
weekend. What's the
bulls.
holiday?
No, I just mean like it's gonna feel like a long weekend.
Yeah, everyone's gonna get
Um,
fucking. Well, yeah, it looks like there's the escalation in Iran now. That's gonna continue on for the weekend. I think Asian markets on Monday are gonna be fucking bloody. I don't think that's gonna be great for crypto. Um, so I don't know if we get even more oversold, if that's even fucking possible at this point. Where RSI is gonna go negative. Fuck.
Yeah, I have a little indicator that just kind of shows ratio between spot and perp volume for all BTC instruments that are on TradingView. So it's basically everything except Hyperliquid. And today was like by far the lowest ratio since mid December, so of the year. So meaning that it was the most perp dominant day of volume of the year for BTC.
Yeah, which I don't know how to take. Like I don't know which way that shakes, but just looking at the funding is negative currently on Coinbase International Perps,
Good.
but
That's good.
barely. It's 0.0001% per hour, which is like
Okay.
the
Yeah, almost
it's
neutral.
basically neutral. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
and how much open interest is there? There is. Yeah, 7.5 billion of trading volume, but there's only 132 million of open interest. So there's just been a lot of fucking trading
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, I've been watching it at the 200 week here, and like yeah, if it was, I thought there was a chance that maybe it got a really strong bounce off of there because it's just one of those indicators that so many people look at. And we did get a
Yeah.
little bit of a bounce, and I was watching it yesterday, but every pop has been a lower high, and it just there's absolutely no strength. I think on my video earlier today I said it was bidless, and it just kind of seems that way. It seems like there is no one on the bid. And that's not
Yeah.
literal, obviously, but there's just zero strength whatsoever. Every single move up just gets slammed.
Yeah, it's because there's obviously we might find out. Well, we obviously every move is searching for a narrative, but like obviously to be down this much, there's clearly a massive seller in the market, right? Like obviously, besides the ETF, we see the ETF outflow, which is substantial over the last week or 2 weeks. It's been a substantial outflows from the ETFs, but there is definitely more than that are selling as well. There's just been so much fucking selling, and nobody's buying. Like literally, nobody's buying. No bid.
Well, it's possible that those dum dums. I mean, it's kind of a who's who of crypto VCs and insiders and the Barry Silbert gang and friends. It's possible that some of them have over levered themselves and blew themselves up in Zcash, and so maybe they
They
had to
can't be that
sell
retarded, can they?
Bitcoin. Of course they can. Of course. They're, it's all the same people making all the same mistakes that they did this time 4 years ago. So absolutely, some of them might have hurt themselves, and now they got to sell Bitcoin to cover to fill the hole in other losses.
Yeah,
So
don't.
it could be something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
scary part with Zcash is they don't know if anyone used the infinite money glitch. Like
Oh, did the guy who discovered it, did he not print a bunch of
they don't know.
Zcash from
They
it?
don't know
No,
that
Yeah.
you can't
they
prove
can't
it.
prove
Yeah,
anything because you can't
because
know
you
the
can't audit
supply.
the
You can't know the supply
Privacy money.
per design.
per design. You can't. So like, you'd have to be
Yeah.
like a fucking degenerate or a retard to be buying Zcash at 370 or whatever it is now. You're fucking retarded.
Well,
Yeah,
it
that
was
thing
that
has been an
shit was
obviously
on.
coordinated pump over the
Yeah.
last like several months. I remember talking about it in Q4, saying that it looked like an obviously coordinated marketing
Well,
campaign. So when everyone's
Yeah.
talking
not
about
only
it,
Yeah.
that, but if someone really, because apparently this bug has existed for 4 years, what you could do is you can basically infinitely print Zcash. No one would know. You could deposit those Zcash on other platforms and use it to long.
Stake it
No,
everywhere.
not
Yeah.
stake it. Use it as collateral
No.
to
No.
long even more Zcash and pump the price.
Oh,
Right. So
that right.
if you create like $1 billion worth of Zcash and deposit it
Yeah.
over five like DeFi or other exchanges to use as collateral, or you sell
Yeah.
it, you
Post it
sell
as
the
collab.
Zcash. Or
No, no, no. You can't sell it. That would dump price. If all of a sudden there's a billion more Zcash than should exist, and you just start
you
selling
just go
it,
to like,
price would be
yeah,
straight
you'd
down.
have to borrow against it and like DeFi and stuff. But
Yes.
like, who
Yes.
then nobody
Yes.
knows. So like, if you got
And they can't prove you can't prove something that's unprovable because it can't be audited per its design. It's
yeah, just bid up
hilarious.
the
It's
perps and sell
it's
into
the
it on
perfect
spot.
privacy coin. How many is there? No one really knows. Do we have a problem? You can't prove we don't.
This is the future of money.
yeah, it's encrypted Bitcoin.
And all the fucking
But this was
losers
this.
comparing it to Bitcoin are
Oh
just
my
so
god.
retarded.
Oh, that shit is it was just such a stupid. So I have friends who are they live and work in hedge fund land up in NYC and IT works, you have to have an IT department for everything, right? And it was on my radar a couple months ago that like so some of these hedge funds, these are TradFi hedge funds. They don't give two shits about crypto. They actively make fun of it. They point at it and laugh at it and say like, haha, get wrecked retail. But it came on my radar because staring at who could not have ignored that chart in late 2025, like what the fuck is going on with Zcash, what is this about? And then some of those hedge funds that I have friends that work in, they were telling me like it's a trade. They don't believe in this shit, but they're long this shit. They weren't coordinating it together, but no one's like trade. But like together, if we combine all of our size, like this thing is just gonna absolutely rock it. And then you can't help but like moths to a flame. Everyone will come buying a massive green candle. So like this was always a trade to some of them. I'm not saying all of them. Like Barry Silbert and the Winklevoss twins motives for shilling Zcash is much different than NYC blah 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 hedge fund, but like they all wanted to
All the
pump it for their
shady,
own
so
reasons.
much of the shady shit comes from Barry Silbert. Like it literally, like the whole GBTC arb trade that blew up everybody in 2021. That came from Barry, and
Well, he was shilling it, but he was shilling to the same people. Like that whole trade, he was shilling it to these same
yeah, the
family
same,
offices
yeah,
and
yeah,
hedge funds in NYC.
yeah, exactly. Saying that,
Yeah.
oh, this is a
Three
flywheel.
Arrows was big on that too.
Oh no,
Three
that's who
Arrows
they that's who
specifically.
they
Well,
basically
that was
coordinated
yeah,
it
that was
with. It
yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was 3 arrows cap. Like I have a chart somewhere. It's basically DCG, Genesis, which is part of DCG, and 3 arrows capital, right? So you had DCG and Grayscale controlling GBTC. You had Genesis who was doing the borrowing and lending off of GBT shares, and you had 3 arrows capital basically borrowing money from Genesis and just putting into the GBC trade, right? And creating that flywheel. And then it all fucking blew up in one day. And of course, fucking BlockFi was late to the trade and thought that's how they could generate yield for their users' fucking Bitcoin interest. And then they do it for like a month and then it blows up in their face and they immediately have to do emergency D round to raise money or else they would have been like insolvent. Um, and then
Good old
they're
2021.
basically sinking since that happened, right? And like no, they never recovered. Always having to do riskier and shittier things to try to stay afloat. And it ended up they were so desperate they had to take money from FTX, and then we all know how that ended up.
Yeah.
because FTX literally said, "We'll give you the money, but you have to deposit all your users' assets on FTX." And they did it.
Yeah.
And what happened? Bad decision after bad decision. So many people got wrecked on that. Fucking Pomp, Novogratz, Jason Williams, Mark Yusko, all they got incredibly fucked. Like Pompliano, like if BlockFi actually succeeded and like ended up being like a $10 billion, 15, 20, $30 billion company, Pompliano would be like pretty close to a fucking billionaire by now. But now he's selling used mattresses and frozen pizzas.
I was about to say, wasn't it 12 months
He's
later he
got
was selling
his
mattresses on the internet?
yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Burr,
he's got his own treasury. Yeah,
bro, that's the
he's got
biggest
his own
scam.
treasury
Bro, that's even
company.
that's it. That
ProCap?
yeah,
Yeah,
that
ProCap,
treasury is
BR.
even a bigger scam than Nakamoto. Like he literally tried to pay himself
Mm.
$300 million, and the shareholders were like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, they voted him
Yeah, they
down.
voted him down. They're like, "What the fuck?" He tried to give himself
Jesus
a three
Christ.
hundred million dollar pay
There's
package.
it's it would be embarrassing enough to get caught trying to give yourself that. It's more embarrassing that your shareholders found you out and voted you down. So
Yeah, like honestly, like all these treasury companies, I don't think they're getting out of this bear market. To be honest with you, like
Good, frankly.
yeah, I agree. Like David Bailey's pressed up against time because he has a loan that's
yeah.
coming due that he doesn't have the money to repay.
Are they even a treasury company anymore? Like they took all that language off their website.
Yeah, because they're probably going to get sued. Same with Jack. Same with 21. They've basically
He doesn't claim
What's
to be a
the
treasury company
they
either.
haven't
You know,
done
he took
anything,
all
but
that.
they've rebuked all that treasury bullshit language because they don't want to get fucking
Yeah,
sued at this point, right? They're
that
all
what
makes
is it that they
sense.
can get sued for? Like I'm just not clear
I
on
don't
that.
know. False advertising, is that I don't know.
well, when you fuck
Misleading investors. There's
misleading
some yeah.
investors, like usually when you tank a public company 99%, there's probably something that you did that's illegal. Right? Like let's just be honest here. Like you like when you take a stock down 99%, like there is some serious insider actions that have caused that. Whether it was
Yeah.
the loan that started it all the pipe financing and the internal deals with the pipe financing, like everything, like the advertisement, like it's just bananas. Like I honestly don't even think I could bring down a stock if I tried 99%. Like that's impressive. And
Yeah.
most of these treasury companies are down bad. Like NAC is down 99, 21's down like almost 90% now. Burr's down like fucking 80, 90%. Like Metaplanet, that like is a hotel company with no hotels at this point. It's down like 90%. What other fucking dats are there? They're all fucking getting run over.
There was Sequence or whatever. They sold all their Bitcoin and
Oh, this.
like that the French
Oh yeah,
company.
the one that Corey Swan tried to recommend. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, they
Sequoia.
Is that the one that
capitulated. They gave
Natalie
up.
Brunel worked for? Oh no, that was
No,
similar.
that was similar. That
Yeah.
was see. I don't. Strategy honestly is the cleanest dirty shirt in the
Yeah, and they're
laundry
down
basket
like
because even Strive.
80%.
Right, but even Strive, like, what the hell are you doing buying out other companies with Bitcoin on their treasury? Like,
A
just buy
CDO
Bitcoin.
of a CDO.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
call that
You're
a
buying.
synthetic
You're using.
CDO.
Yeah, you're buying. You're giving golden parachutes. You're buying someone's like tiny Bitcoin podcast. Just hire them. Just hire them. But no, you want to give them a golden parachute, a sweetener of the deal. So you overpay for their Bitcoin podcast, and then you overpay for the Bitcoin on Semler Scientific's balance sheet. Why? Other than to give them a golden parachute, I have
Well,
no
you
idea
can say
why.
it's a
You could
you
buy
can
the
say
Bitcoin
it's a
cheaper.
you can say well,
Yep.
did they
But
buy
you
it
could
at a
buy the
premium?
Bitcoin cheaper.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was a takeover bid.
Oh,
You had to give a
God.
premium on the stock. Because why would Semler approve the takeover merger if not you're getting if unless you're getting paid more than the shares are worth? So it's all clown show. It's all like I mean I have critiques over, and you two, we have critiques on Stretch, Sailor's product, but truly strategy is the only name in this whole thing that has any credibility.
I agree with that, and I've thought since the beginning that if there was going to be any appetite in the market for a company with no cash flows to just hoard Bitcoin and actually be worth something, it would be one company, and it's MicroStrategy or Strategy, whatever. Because they're the first ones. They're the only ones that have any credibility in doing it.
Yeah.
And there's just no reason why a market should care about or value at a premium like a dozen other companies doing the exact same
I don't
thing.
even think.
Businesses
Yeah,
that are not productive are not useful.
I think it's going to be hard, even in the next bull run, for MSTR to carry a big premium. Like they're like
Yeah,
that memory is there now, right? Like
yeah.
before.
They've overcomplicated their offerings, in part because they had to, and I don't think it's going to be easy for them to run a huge premium. And frankly, like, why should it trade at
No, it
this
should
point? I
on.
just there's
Why? Well, because of, I mean, because we're gonna wake newcomers are gonna wake up in 2028, and Bitcoin has moved, is blasted past 150K and is closing in on 200K, and they're gonna realize they missed out on 400% upside, and they will FOMO in to all the quote unquote catch up trades like they always do every cycle. You can't stop them. It'll happen, and uh almost it's like a guarantee. They will. They'll FOMO into whatever the hottest crypto names are, and strategy for sure. And I mean, set your watch to it. It is. We've seen it
Yeah,
now,
but
not one but two cycles in a row. They'll do
do
it
you think their
again.
MNAV is going to be over two at any point in the future, though?
Yes,
Interesting.
yes, because when Bitcoin gets on its bull run,
Yeah.
and you have the benefit of strategy of, not only is it a catch up FOMO trade, but you're going to have the people who are emotionally going to short it just because it says 1.5 mNAV and 2 mNAV. So there's that. And then you have the benefit of gamma squeezes. Strategy, I will not be surprised if strategy has another mini blow off top a whole year before Bitcoin actually tops again. It happened in 2021, it happened in 2025, and excuse me, 2024 strategy had its blow off top in 2024. I would not be surprised if they have themselves a blow off top well before Bitcoin's eventual all time high. Same
Yeah,
thing, because
retail are pretty stupid.
they can't help themselves. It's honestly not even Sailor's fault. People just, they can't help but FOMO in, and strategy is a very obvious catch up trade to them.
Yeah, that's the retail mindset and the retail mentality of like, oh, I've missed out. I need to catch up, right? Like, let me jump
Yep.
in. The only way that they can really pull that off again is obviously time away from the events that are currently happening, right? But then also, they need to still show that they can actually increase Bitcoin per share, right? Like that's their marketing gimmick, if you will, of basically showing that we're actually Bitcoin is not just increasing in value, but per share, your Bitcoin, you're holding more and more Bitcoin, right? Like,
accretive.
yeah, creative. It's
Hmm.
all their bullshit. I still
Yep.
never forget, and I called it out as soon as I seen Adam Back push this narrative to try to justify MNAVs, like the MNAV to cover
Oh my
statistic. Do you
God.
remember that? I
Yeah.
just seen that. I'm like, holy fuck! Like this is bubble territory where they're talking about like, well, the MNAV can be like 5 or 6 because at their current accretive state or their Bitcoin yield, they would be able to basically get up to that level within so many days. And I'm just like, holy fuck! Like this is a fucking bubble.
Yeah.
But retail.
Only to immediately disappear as soon as you realize that's not a 10% or 20% correction. That's the next bear market.
Yeah.
Instantly disappears.
Well, it's the same thing with like GBTC back in 2020 and
Yeah.
2021, right?
Yeah.
Like that NAV premium, which I think at one point it got up to 30% on the GBC trust, the
Yeah.
closed trust. Um, It took one day. I think it was 1 or 2 days that fully deleted the premium, and it went from a 25% premium to like a negative 25% premium, like almost instantly. And that's what basically sunk BlockFi. Like they were functionally, or actually they were insolvent, not operationally insolvent, but they were insolvent instantly when that happened. And they were trying to save themselves or upright the ship ever since that happened, but
Yeah.
they never were able to.
I literally tweeted, I literally posted that last March 2025 that MSTR is literally this cycle's GBTC.
Yeah. They
If
got
you
up
know,
to,
you know.
yeah, like I forget what the highest MNAV they got up to, but like it was like
It was like
pittance.
four,
Yeah,
four.
before. But then you compare that to like Meta Planet, a hotel company with no
Yeah.
hotels,
What was
or
it? 15? 15
Nakamoto at
maybe?
one point was like 45 MNAV.
Yeah,
Like,
I definitely saw 30s. Yep, I saw
yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
it was fucking insane. Like the writing was on the wall when
Yeah.
that was happening. That these
But
companies are
here's
gonna
but
blow up
here's the
nicely.
thing, like, look, and I say this as I'm a strategy shareholder. I'm happy to buy it at point 0.8 price to book value because I know you can't talk them out of overpaying for it at 3, 4,
Yeah,
5 book
down the road.
value. You can't.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can, that's the thing with retail, and that's why like most Bitcoiners have gotten this incredibly wrong. Like since altcoins have existed, right? Like when the first one started popping up, like Colorcoin and other ones in 2014 and 2015, is they always thought that every time the shitcoin bubble burst, that everyone would basically be smart enough the next go around not to do that. But they forget that when you're talking about whole sums, guess what? There's still 7 billion people on this planet to scam, right? So you might have scammed a couple $100 million this past cycle, but guess what? The pizza pie is way bigger. So the next cycle, we're just going to scam the next 500 million people or whatever, whatever it ends up being, and we'll change the idea ever so slightly, right? Like obviously you've seen like the meme coins this cycle. Before that, you've seen NFTs. Before that, you've seen DeFi summer. Before that, you've seen the flippening with Ethereum. Then you've seen the cycle with the Ethereum killers. Like every cycle there's like something new, and then this next cycle is going to be like tokenized equities or RWA, and like
and the new hotness is prediction markets.
yeah, prediction markets are a tax for retards at this point. Like it really is. Like it truly is a tax for retards because there, like I kid you not, there's actually institutional desks now that are popping up, that are providing liquidity for these prediction markets that are just running the town,
Yeah,
on
just
prediction markets on.
collect the arbitrage. Or I mean,
Yeah,
collect the
yeah, and
arb. Yeah,
they make the odds whatever they want them, because most of these markets, even the biggest markets on the front page of Polymarket, are thinner than a cunt hair in terms of liquidity, and they
yeah,
move them to wherever they want. And realistically, the only thing that moves prediction markets are two things: either news coming out verifying something or the other, or insider trading. Anything between that or away from that, it's just retards guessing on what they think or what their bias is, right? Like, oh, I think rate cuts are coming because, well, it's going to help my bag, right? Or if they have even a semi half brain logical thing, like, well, the war in Iran, inflationary, we're not going to get a cut anytime soon, and they're just like, oh, okay, I'll throw $20 on this, and we'll see what happens, kind of as a fucking joke. And there's no real alpha in that. Like, there's really no alpha. Like, people totally marketed these prediction markets as basically alpha driven, market predictions, when in reality it's just a bunch of fucking retards getting taken to the fucking cleaner by institutional liquidity providers and insider tradings that are probably in the Trump administration, like and all. Like, so it's like, why would you ever participate? Like, it's one thing if you're on
yeah.
poly markets betting on the basketball game, right? You're just a sports gambler at that point, whatever, like you can have your fun. But like these air quotes, like whole marketing gimmick of let's make this industry actually sound legit and actually be used in real meaningful manners, it's like, no, like we don't need to create financial or imaginary financial contracts that are basically mirroring other financial assets, but we're just betting on things that really in the end scheme are nothing. Like, so there's no asset behind it. Like for example, like you're betting on inflation numbers or whatever you're betting on Kalshi or Poly markets, like, or you could just go buy some fucking oil call options or put options, or like actually express your macro views in how it's going to interact and intersect with real world financial assets. No, let's just go bet on a perpetual fucking contract that has no liquidity whatsoever. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes total sense to me.
I mean, I could understand, like, maybe you've got a really good feeling about you're an Apple analyst, you pour over their data and their iPhone sales, and you even camp out your local Apple stores, and you're just utterly convinced they're going to rock, they're going to blow out next earnings, right? They're going to crush next earnings. And we've seen it time and time before that, a company can solidly beat earnings, and yet the stock corrects hard because maybe they didn't beat the quote unquote whisper numbers or the expectations. They beat
The
the
beige book.
right, exactly. So like in that case, okay, you're that convicted and you want to place your bets on prediction markets. Maybe that's cleaner than having to worry about options on the stock. But like, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
or Matt, you bet on MicroStrategies will sell bitcoins before June 1st, and basically
And they did. And
and they did.
can you speak on that? Like, that's some sketchy stuff.
So
Now,
this is
what
the
is
whole
going on
U.
here?
So this is the whole
They didn't want to pay
UMA.
everyone out. They didn't want to pay it
Well,
out.
that's the tinfoil hat thesis, right? And it's mostly true because UMA is the mafia that basically decides on what gets graded what in terms of yes, nos, whatever the scale is on the bet. Um, and they're arguing that basically according to the AK filing that they didn't announce it until June 1st, right? But in reality, like they did sell it before May 31st, right? Like the sell price was $77,000, which the price was
Wow.
never $77,000 before or after May 31st, right? So it's
Right.
like obvious plain Jane day that's what they did. They sold Bitcoin before May 31st. And people got fucking robbed, in my opinion, to be perfectly blunt. People got
Feels like it.
robbed.
Yeah.
And do you remember maybe 6 months ago when Poly Markets was really first trying to like take a lot of had a lot of wind at its back? They were talking about how you could generate risk-free returns, risk-free yields from Poly Markets by basically scalping the last percent or fractions of a percent on sure bets. Like they were literally talking about creating funds that are risk-free yield returns from scraping positive or basically insured, not insured, but like guaranteed contracts on poly markets. Like that, like, okay, yeah, this is 100% because they sold and then you bet on it and then they fucking rug pull your ass so hard. That's one. I think poly market's probably going to go to court. They're going to get taken to court for that one for sure. Um, the
Yeah, I think
big
I saw that the guy he posted that he was prepared to take legal action
He
against
would
him.
have to because he lost half a mil, right? The
Yeah,
biggest loser on that contract was half a mil. And if you lose that bad, like obviously he's a greedy piece of shit, but like you lose that bad, you have to take them to court specifically. And I think there's pretty good merit for taking them to court. But
yeah, it seems like it.
and like I tweeted like I think maybe 5 or 6 days before that I'm like I literally said like prediction markets are a tax for retards. And then this all happened. So I'm like, oh, there you go. Here you go. More proof. Um, but yeah, just so many degenerates out there. And this is the same thing, like in the same narrative of like people always think shit coins and degeneracy is going to go away in markets in general. Like, no, it never goes away.
Never.
It's human nature, right?
Right.
Like forget about all these shit coins and take it to like real assets and real stocks. Like, look at the whole meme stock like narrative, right?
Yeah.
GameStop,
It
all these
oscillates,
other ones,
right?
AMC, all these other things,
Yeah.
like Berry at one point, which is a real company, somehow was getting meme stocked. It's human degeneracy, and realistically, financial markets this day and age, especially over the last 5 years since COVID, everyone needs to be an investor to not just get ahead in life, but just to stay even with the inflation that's happening, right? So it's not good enough anymore to save money. Like you just cannot get ahead or even stay afloat by saving money. You have to be an investor and be in the markets and be a capital allocator or whatever, to just stay ahead. And like there's a this huge, you can call it a ZERP phenomenon if you want, but like it really kicked into gear when those stimmies came out in 2021. I think they came out in maybe like 2020, whenever they came out. Um,
Yep,
and while interest
2020.
rates were 0%, like
Yeah.
that created this phenomena of everybody now, you guy that used to work at Burger King to the oil mechanic to the movie theater hostess to the bartender, all became investors with Robinhood, right? Or whatever brokerage they used. Everyone was an investor, and they're the smartest thing since sliced bread, right? Even though financial markets have been around, I guess, arguably over 10,000 years, at least recorded history. That now that this is their way of life. This is the way that they make a means or a living, right? And that still hasn't gone away, right? Like we haven't changed, or nothing's changed since COVID, right? We're living in this, I don't want to call it the everything bubble, but it is, right? But when I say that, I don't mean it in the sense that everything's going to come crashing down, because ultimately it really can't, right? Like you can have down years, but we're not having another 1929 depression or another GFC. Like the central planners at this point have pretty much figured out how to avoid that, right? Obviously, there's trade offs. The trade offs are wealth inequality, destruction of the middle class, all these different things that manifest themselves, like the overall happiness of a society. But they've figured out how to stop systemic financial collapses. And that is through the masses of money printing, ZERP policies, QE, yield curve control, straight money check stimmy straight out to everyone. They can basically figure out, or have figured out, how to stop that. What they haven't yet figured out how to stop is inflation, which is ironic because it's that literally is what causes inflation. But we're at a point now, especially it's mostly government debt, but obviously at the municipal level and personal level as well, when debt is so high that they cannot raise interest rates high enough at this stage to actually actively and effectively combat inflation without imploding the entire whole fucking monetary system, right? Like
Yeah.
realistically, when we got up to what was the top headline inflation number in 2022? Was Did it get close to 10?
9.5.
Yeah, nine
I
Yeah,
think
five.
it was
nine
9.
nine five.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
9.5. Like realistically, like if we were back in the Volcker era or even pre-Volcker era when debt was actually low, considerable, the debt to GDP, they would have hiked rates to over 9%. They would have been like, oh, interest is 9%. We need to hike rates to 10% to combat the inflation so that real rates are negative, or are positive,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
right. But
And
they
that
could
was
Yeah.
they could
sorry, go ahead.
they could never do that, because if they did now, you would cause, at the very least, the real estate industry would implode,
Yeah.
amongst a whole slew of other things would implode. Car loans, anything that has any relation to the 10-year, for example, would just fucking implode. So they can no longer
Yeah.
raise interest rates to the point to deal with inflation, and that's why everyone makes fun of Powell, because the transitory, right? Like it's like the Bernanke's subprime is contained. As much as that Bernanke knew that subprime wasn't contained and he was just putting on a face, Powell knew inflation was not transitory. He just had to say it was, right?
Yeah.
Um, and they literally had to continue that narrative, because if they came out and just said the truth, no, it's not transitory, they would have been forced to basically have to continue to raise rates, even though they knew they can't do that. So they put on this narrative, oh, it's transitory, stretching it out as long as possible and continuing the bubble for as long as possible before they started raising interest rates. And then they finally did. And to their credit, they did raise interest rates in the face of everyone saying that they would not be able to do what they did. It's just because they juiced the economy so much that the real growth rates were like through the roof, right? And so they were able to raise interest
Yeah.
rates high enough
Yeah.
to 5%. But remember when they moved them to 5%, like they stopped, and then inflation was still hot for like 2 years, and it was slowly and slowly trickling down to the point where we get to 2025 or 2026 and we're just getting down to their 2% target or close to. I think we got down to what, 2.4 or something on year over year, 2.3. And then Trump goes ahead and then fucking attacks Iran. And now we're at like, what are we at? Close to four headline year over year. We're getting close to four.
It was
Yeah.
3.8, I think, last
Yeah,
time.
and so the next print is going to be over four at
Yeah.
this point. And so now we're back up to four. And guess what? Everyone now, specifically today, the whole reason why the market imploded is because job numbers came out and they're like, oh, wow, this job market, this economy is strong as fuck. That means that the Fed is now going to have to hike, right? Because you just even look
Yeah,
on
or perhaps the economy could take it if jobs are strong and
it's, well,
inflation's
that's the,
hot.
yeah,
Maybe we can get a squeeze a hike in there or two.
yeah, but I don't think that's coming. I don't think there's a
I don't
chance of
either. I
of a
don't
rate
either.
hike, right? But the
Yep.
market thinks that it did. But remember, TX
Yep.
can give you the stat by stat. The market thought the Fed was going to stop their rate hikes almost as much as they started, and said that they were going to reverse course instantaneously. But longer for or higher for longer actually ended up being higher than way longer than any analyst I've ever seen predict on how long they're going to keep rates high, myself included. I didn't realize,
Yeah.
I didn't think that they're going to be able to hold on to this high for this long.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I
here we
think
are.
like yeah, it's tough because you know, back in the I wasn't alive in the 70s, but back then the economy was quite different. And so the Fed raising rates actually did a lot more to stifle demand because so much more of the relative share of debt lived in the private sector. Households were actually borrowing a lot more from commercial banks. Banks were creating a lot more small business loans and stuff. And commercial bank lending was a huge source of funds for the economy more than government fiscal deficits. And at the time, there was also a lot of real demand and people investing, buying homes, all these kind of stuff. And so whenever the Fed would raise rates, it really stifled activity like across the economy.
Yep.
And as we've gotten now, especially since the GFC, uh, the share of debt relatively has shifted to the public sector, right, to the part of the government balance sheet. Back in the 80s, when Volcker was around, late 70s, I think that GDP was like 30% in the 30s,
Yeah, it was low.
and now it's
Yeah.
120%. It's like World War II levels,
Well, that was
and
Well,
the
that was an extra cause of the massive rampant inflation in 2021.
yeah
Between March 2020 to December 2021, the Fed, they weren't just sitting around talking about transitory and refusing to raise rates. They were buying over 40 billion of mortgage-backed securities month after month after month.
yeah
The Fed bought 1.2 trillion in mortgage-backed securities from the COVID crash, March 2020, to they only stopped December 2021 when inflation had already popped up to
yeah
6%. So that, I mean, that
they were still
really
buying treasuries until
exacerbated.
February. They were doing
Right.
120 billion total in QE every month,
Yeah.
including the MBS you're
In
talking
in
about.
the
So I think that's why they probably. I mean, I don't know. We'll never know what they say in their back hallways amongst themselves. But stopping that crazy buying spree on mortgage-backed securities, maybe that's why they also. Maybe they knew that we're probably not going to actually have to raise rates that high above inflation because simply stopping all this bond buying will help as well.
Yeah, and like because so much of the debt lives on the public sector and it's just in like bonds and things. When they're raising the rates now, they're just really increasing interest income for people who own a lot of assets. And
Yeah.
like if you look at actual credit growth, like commercial industrial loan growth, which ticked up a little recently, or you look at consumer loan growth, real estate loans, all that shit is in the dumps comparatively to like old growth rates. And most of the credit that's being created is going to private equity, private credit, which is it makes its way into the economy a little differently. But like households and small businesses and shit aren't really borrowing. So when the Fed's raising rates, like they're already not really accessing credit. The housing market has been complete ass for 5 years, 4 years. I mean, there's that they're not really stifling any of that because most of the fuel in the economy is from what have been, until really recently, pretty decent wage growth rates historically, like in the fours. Recently, I think it ticked down to the high threes, and that's pretty high historically. That plus dis saving has kind of just kept people churning along, and the wealthy are the ones who are getting most of the interest income and most of the wealth effect, while we're still running massive deficits. The deficit is also like double what it was back in the 80s. Back then, it was like 3%, occasionally 4. When they had the recessions in the early 80s, I think it went to 5, but then it went back. But now we're just running 6 to 7% deficits like on a fucking random
What's
Tuesday
that?
with no
Right.
crisis.
What's that quote? Nothing stops this train.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing
exactly.
stops this
And
train.
so you know
Yes.
the interest rate lever for the Fed has really weakened. And now that the thing I think people don't really think about enough is, if it has been this difficult for them to stifle inflation with Fed funds being in the fours and at one point in the fives, uh, their raising rates is not really doing a whole lot. Their cutting of rates will also not do a whole lot, right? Like the next time there's actually a downturn, because the rates that people are holding outstanding mortgages at, for example, are 200 basis
Yeah.
points below the market rate on mortgages right now. So like the Fed would have to cut a fuckload
Or
just for people to tap home equity or
or they
refinance and cut
wouldn't.
their debt costs. And not, so it's just
Yeah.
the entire system is fucked because of how quickly we left zero rate policy and how long we had spent there beforehand.
Well, what if
That's
they
why
try to sell more of those MBSs, more of that
See, that's
security?
what they need to do. They need
Yeah,
to outright sell
they
them,
need to
but
sell
they're
them.
just letting them roll
they
off.
can't.
They rem-
I think
they
the
remember what
time.
happened in 2018.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Twenty.
I don't think they're going to.
No,
Yeah,
they
I don't think
can't.
that
They
there's
can't.
the last time they tried this, Jerome Powell tried this when he got the Fed chairmanship in 2018, and the markets, the S&P 500
he
and
lasted a
Nasdaq.
fucking year.
Well,
Not
the
even. It lasted like 4 months.
Yeah, S&P 500 and the Nasdaq had one of the quickest 20% corrections.
Right.
It was
The
just straight
Christmas
down.
massacre of
Yeah,
2018.
yeah,
We might actually beat that record here shortly.
That was back when
yeah.
Bitcoin's daily RSI was lower than it is today.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That
exactly.
was Bitcoin's crash from 7K to 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
what that
Yeah,
was.
I don't
overnight
think they're
too.
gonna sell the
Yeah,
ETFs,
Overnight.
but that's what
yeah.
they should fucking do.
But they can never sell those, right? And it's kind of funny because like one of the Powell's in some of the interviews, he said what was one of the biggest mistakes. He never goes to the transitory. He always says the MBS on the Fed's balance sheet. He said that was a mistake, and he said that the Fed didn't have any business putting MBSs on the Fed's balance sheet, and he wished that they
He's
never
not
did that.
wrong there. He's
No,
not wrong there.
he's not, because that's
They
what
shouldn't have bought all that.
they shouldn't have, and that's why real estate from 2020 just fucking exploded. But if you think about it, if they didn't do that, like things would have, like
Mm,
rates would have exploded
no,
higher.
no. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think what they and this is why they shouldn't have even tried. But what they ended up doing by buying all that mortgage-backed security like clockwork, month after month, from COVID crash well into even early 2022. What they obviously didn't realize was housing was going to be a super hot commodity for those who could afford it and those who had access to capital and money in 2020 and 2021. So you're artificially also pumping up those prices with your ridiculous automatic purchases. You didn't have to do that at all because it was going to be the hottest, highly desirable commodity for Americans anyway. You
I
could
think
have
they
just
say
sold out.
I think they saved the banks is what they did, right? Because when, like, I know it's hard to like remember what it was like
Yeah, the counterfactual.
March 15th, 2020, or whatever it was, March 20th. But like everything was like it was like doomsday. Like it was only doomsday for like maybe a week or 2 weeks, but like I remember specifically where I was in the world when COVID went from like, oh, that's that thing that's in China, and it's starting to tick up. I wonder if it's going to actually go across the world. And then by the next week it's everywhere. and then all of a sudden the entire global economy shut down and the stock market is fucking tanking and the liquidity is like fucking absolutely zooted to zero or beyond zero. Banks are like looking for what the Fed is supposed to be, a lender of last resort, but obviously they stretched that and they had to go to Congress, did they not, to basically change their mandates to be able to put MBS on their balance sheet. But they were buying everything and anything that actual bank was selling to get liquidity. They were buying, right. So they were, in my opinion, not just they weren't really bailing out the real estate industry, they're bailing out the banks, and of course it was bailing out the real estate industry as well.
Right.
But those 2 weeks there, like it was like what the fuck? Like everything was just a fucking like look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin like went from like what 10K down to like 3K like instantly or whatever it was in 2020.
Yeah. 12 to 5
Yeah.
in like a week. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had two market-wide circuit breakers in equities in like
Yeah.
a 8-day span. It was pretty crazy.
yeah. Even though today was a bigger point drop, right? We had what was it, 4 point whatever
In
percent?
points, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, in
Yeah, but
points.
the relatively it was eclipsed last April.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. I'd be
well,
interested. This was a big one, and yeah, it was funny. Did you see the truth? The truth from President Trump, where he's like, long story short, he was like, "How come?"
Markets should go up.
Right, right. How come no one's reacting to the employment data? Why aren't you looking at the
You
jobs
know, he was
data?
sitting on the fucking presidential
Right.
shitter at like 5:30
oh
this morning,
shit,
just like
T-
raging at futures.
right. But
like
like he should. But he's talking about the incredible labor data before it actually had even been announced too, because that doesn't come out until 8:30.
he definitely
But
gets a preview and he tweets it.
of course he does, which is hilarious because we were talking all about prediction markets a second ago, and he's already like, anyway. But talk about not having the finger on the pulse. You were absolutely right, Magoo, and it looks like Trump made that mistake too. The markets are not reacting to positive employment and labor data this week. They want to see a deal in the Middle East. They want to see peace signed. They want to memory hole this whole conflict with Iran. And every day and every week and every month that doesn't get resolved, it is a problem. And I think that's
Yeah.
why you got rates continue to creep up. Certainly inflation continues to creep up, and now we have to start re-rating this whole market for like, well, what if we really do have a rate hike or two in the back half of this year?
So I think the fear today was nothing to do with Iran, and it was more to do with a potential hike coming. But like this is once
But
a
it's
time.
all of a piece. It's
Yeah,
it's
I know,
all
but
connected.
this is once again us and the market searching for a narrative that explains the price action. Like this is what this is, right? Like let's widen our context to like 2 weeks. The market has had one of the most violent and aggressive moves up since almost even more than during COVID. Like what we've seen from the bottom of the Iran conflict
Yep.
to where we were yesterday, like is fucking insane how much some of these stocks went up. Like you have stocks that went up 50% in a month. Micron up 50% in a month. Intel, SanDisk, Nvidia, AMD, all of these stocks through the fucking roof. Speculation and guess what? The Nasdaq had the biggest single day point drop in history. Guess what? We're at prices that we haven't seen since last week.
Right, exactly.
Like since last week. Last week. We we went down 5% and we seen these prices like last week. So
Yeah.
everyone now, and I honestly hope like this is what you're going to see on Monday. I think this is not financial advice. You're going to see Asian markets probably open up and you're going to see them fucking get slaughtered. And then you're going to see the U.S.
Yeah.
market futures open extremely red. You're going to have the U.S. markets open extremely red. And then you're going to see everyone tweeting out that the AI bubble is popped and it's all over. Like time to fucking leave. And then by the end of the day on markets open, the market's going to gain back all of its loss
And be
and
green. Yeah.
almost fit
Yeah.
and almost
Yeah.
finish flat to maybe even possibly green.
That's what. Well,
Yeah.
that's
Probably.
that's what I thought. That's what I'm. That's That's kind of what I was saying earlier.
That being
I think
said,
that
though,
yeah
that's so much time for Bitcoin to fucking implode. Like
yeah
Bitcoin's 60,000 right now.
yeah
If Asian markets open on Sunday night, like come on, guys, Bitcoin Sunday night. If Asian markets are down like 3-4% on a Monday open, Bitcoin's gonna fucking implode to like
yeah
$55,000, right?
yeah.
And that might be the ball. That could be like
That could be the
that.
bottom wick. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
that could be the wick where
yeah
it gets down to, and then you have that reflexive bounce back, and
yes
then by Monday close of U.S. equities, you could see Bitcoin back above
60
65,000.
62 yeah 63. I agree. Yeah, I mean it literally we've seen this that crazy. Oh, it's supposed to be a slaughter Monday. Hold on to your hats. If you
Yeah,
don't
Peter Schiff already called it for a black or a red Black Monday for crypto.
saw that,
No,
yeah.
I can't imagine how many Black Monday tweets there are going around right now.
I
Holy
know.
If
shit.
we had a Bitcoin for every Black Monday,
Yeah, no
yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it was.
yeah,
I think the market didn't really like that bonds were up today. I think bonds like across the
yeah,
curve were down 1.5 to 2%. Yields were up, and it
yeah,
was in response to that job data.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it just they had already priced in one hike. I don't think the Fed is actually going to tighten necessarily. These
No,
would have to
I don't
get a
think
lot
so.
more.
I don't think they're
Yeah,
gonna
I think
tight.
this would have to progress quite a bit, and it would have to happen over 2 or 3 months for them to get that way. But
But
today, I don't think they're going to hike. But the market is just trying to price in these things. And I mean, we had so much jawboning for the 12 months before Warsh got nominated about how the Fed needed to cut and how they were going to cut bigly,
oh,
and
and
then
it's gonna and it's a guarantee,
right,
and
and the
it's just a
closer
question of
Warsh
how
got to
many
actually
cuts. Yeah,
taking the oath, the more the market was like, "Oh my God, he's going to cut
yeah.
so much," and they're having
Yeah.
to unwind some of their own fucking stupidity. And
But I think that's exactly what it is, TXMC. You're right. It's not any one single narrative, but it's the culmination of
right,
a bunch of letdowns. So like let's add them up from beginning of May. How many narratives did we lose? We're going to sign a ton of lucrative economic deals with China. Nope. We're going to have Iran peace.
yeah, the
Nope.
war's going to be over.
Well,
Nope.
war's going to be over. Nope. In fact, it doesn't seem like any progress. We're going to have all these rate cuts. Nope. We're going to get a
Right,
handle
2 months of
on inflation.
job surprises to the upside, two
Right.
months of PMI surprises to the upside.
There's
Right. So
just so
you
much
start
AI.
adding. So, but like, there's something like maybe you care about rates and I care about geopolitics and everyone has their pet thing, but there was just so much a culmination of negative news that you had plenty of net seller, and that's how we get this.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the
also,
market was straight vertical too, so it just
yeah, it was
needs to
yeah.
like rebalance a little
Right.
bit. It's gonna take a few days for it to shake that out, and we can assign whatever reasons we need to it. But even if you just look at the chart and you don't know shit about the world or macro or anything, you can just tell, wow, that's up a lot. It's probably gonna pull back.
Yeah, when you had the QQQ RSI daily RSI like at like 78, like what like go like what do you think's going to happen,
Right.
right? So like
Oh,
you just know that
yeah.
Trump is in the new Fed chair's ear. The war's going to end soon. The war's going to end soon.
Oh, he's
Like
he's trying to. Yeah.
literally sitting there tickling his earlobe. The war's going to end soon. The war's going to end soon. Like that's what he's saying because he's like,
Yeah.
don't you fucking dare hike because the war's gonna end soon, and oil's gonna drop to $50 a barrel
Yeah.
overnight.
Well, that
Yeah.
conversation. I mean, Kevin Warsh. He's no spring chicken. He's been in and around the Fed for over a decade. That conversation's going both directions too. He's probably telling Trump that, look, I can get you all sorts of cuts. Just end this war. Find some sort of peace. Announce a peace. As soon as you can get a peace, I can get you the cuts. So it's probably both ways.
Yeah. I think Warsh is like clearly like an ambitious man. He's wanted this job since for Bernanke was the fucking Fed chair, and he almost got it when Powell got nominated in 2018. He was one of the people on the short list, and he's long been kind of like a hawk as far as Fed people go. The way he's talked to the media and the interviews he's given, he's been kind of hawkish about the balance sheet, about QE as a policy, all this stuff for years. And I think he finally realized he had a chance to get the job realistically, and all he had to do was say whatever the fuck the president wanted to say for as many months as it took for him to get the job. And I think that's basically what we experienced, from middle of last year until he got the nomination. Now he's now, or not the nomination, until he took the fucking oath. And I think what's going to happen is now he's in the job, and he's going to first of all probably dial back his rhetoric a whole lot, but also there's just the realities of sitting in the chair versus being
You
an
know what I'm
outsider.
excited.
Just hold on a second. What happened? Scott Besant did the same fucking thing. Remember, he was talking shit about the way Yellen was doing all this heavy bill issuance and how she was pumping the markets and it was stealth QE or whatever the fuck he called it. He wrote an op-ed in the goddamn newspaper. He was on all these interviews talking about it. He gets in the job. He literally does the exact same fucking shit she's doing. I think Warsh is also the same thing. He said whatever he had to say, and now he's got literally the dream job for someone like him. And so he's gonna realize that he doesn't get to just cut whenever he wants to fucking cut. And the market, all these dumbasses who keep acting like the Fed chair unilaterally sets rate policy and that it's not a fucking committee vote of like a dozen other people,
Yep.
they're going to realize that is what they thought is false, and it's actually way more complicated.
What I'm really looking forward to is Powell staying on the FOMC and just abstaining and like
Yeah.
for the fucking full rest of Trump's term, just sitting on there voting for a rate hike every time, no matter
Yeah, yeah.
what.
Yeah,
Oh,
and Powell also. So Powell also had to change.
Yeah.
He was on the board back in 2012, 2014, somewhere in there. And I remember reading FOMC minutes, and I think I made a tweet about this in 2023. I'll try to find it. But there was a quote in the minutes, not the minutes, in the transcripts, I should say, where it's like saying everything, all they're going around the table and they're talking. And Powell is talking about how they're in QE2 and they've been expanding the balance sheet and all this shit. And he said, I have real concerns that we are blowing a fixed income bubble across the economy, and that when we actually try to unwind this stuff at some unknown future date, we are going to have serious fucking problems reducing the balance sheet very much at all. But he said, but we absolutely need to do that. But then he gets into the chair and he's like, he buys trillions of dollars of MBS and fucking treasuries and pumps the
that's the
markets
big
up, and he's part of 40% of M2 that was grown in 18 months.
that's
So like
Yeah.
he got in the job and realized he
Well,
couldn't
he
do
tried.
any of the
He
shit he said
well,
before.
it's
well he
like
tried to.
Elon. It's like
Yeah.
Elon too, right? Who basically got in there with
Oh
Doge
yeah.
and saying he was going to do all this and save all this, but then
Elon's
turns
a
out.
fucking idiot, man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is. But like that's the problem with central planners, is that ultimately they are tuning for efficiency in a perfect situation, and then unbeknownst to them, there's always crises or events that happen where they have to be
To
reflective.
justify this and justify
Well, not
that.
even just
Yeah,
justify it, but like the Fed might say that they're independent and they're apolitical. No, they're definitely political, and they have to solve crises as they come, right? And so you get into this like literal doom loop of okay, our balance sheet is zero, and now we're adding to it. And so you basically do everything you need to do. You decrease rates, you increase your balance sheet to get the economy going again, and then when the economy's going good again they actually are not able to get the balance sheet back to where they started or to get rates as high as they were before the last crisis. And it just compounds cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle to where we are now with whatever the balance sheet has, how many trillions and how much debt there is. Like the dual mandate is really a flaw in my opinion because
100%.
the one thing that it really does not account for is bubbles in terms of like debt bubbles or asset price bubbles because they think that like okay my dual mandate is I just have to control the prices and I have to either do control prices or basically make sure that the employment rate or employment is good, right? And you bounce back teeter totter between both of those. But unbeknownst to them, as they're doing that, they're creating debt bubbles and equity bubbles and asset bubbles all throughout all the cycles that they're doing this. And then those become a liability in times of trial, in crisis, where they blow up in the faces of the Fed. And then they have to extra react hard It's like when you're in a fight with someone and you're like, you start off as like a play fight, and then like they hit you a little bit harder, and then you have to hit them just a little bit harder, and then they hit you back full tilt, then you have to go full tilt, and then it turns into a fucking full out fucking scrap. That's what they're doing every cycle, and it's just like for example, it's like everyone has been on like a teeter totter, right? And basically, you start going up and down really slowly, and then you get some fucking 400-pound dude crisis on the other side, sits on the teeter totter and fucking shoots you to the fucking moon. And then you have to fucking react to somehow counterbalance this crisis. So you fucking get the biggest bitch you can ever find, and you get her on your fucking side of the teeter totter, and then it fucking slams down, and the fat guy goes flying up, right? And then it's like that creates a whole other crisis, and another fat dude falls on top of it. It's just like it compounds over and over again to the point where the Fed really, TX said it best, like they're really at wits end about like interest rate is really not a monetary tool that even works anymore for the most part. Like
Right.
going up or down, they're capped on the upside, because if they go any higher than a certain amount, it just implodes everything. Going to 0% now really doesn't do much. Like, well, if you go to
Right.
zero, it will do something. But if you try to be like responsible and slowly
Yeah.
decrease it, it doesn't do anything, because all these
It's not
people.
like the bonds are going to trade at that level. Everyone knows what inflation is. They're not going to, like, bonds are still going to sell at what the market will bear. So you can say like,
Yeah.
hey, we're officially Fed funds rate is 1%, but all the bonds will trade at 3 and 4% yield because
Yeah, you'll
that's
have to
what
be.
inflation
You'll
is.
have.
They yeah
You have to be in a crisis where there's a liquidity crisis and people
yeah
actually
flee to safety.
flee to
Right.
safety and
Right.
actually think that a recession or deflation are coming, or whatever, even worse, and the rates will go down, right?
Yeah.
But
They
they.
might even be able to cool demand a little bit if they were to cut rate. I mean, the initial reaction wouldn't be good, but if they had some reason why they could cut, and then they actually did, uh, they might even be able to cool demand a little bit, just because they wouldn't be paying out like more rates for assets would go down, and all of the asset owners
But
who are
what's the but what's
continually
the
enjoying the wealth effect would have less mailbox money.
But what's the biggest problem we see right now in U.S. economy? I think everyone kind of agrees that the housing market is completely frozen
It's
up,
cooked.
locked,
Yeah,
stagnant.
It's
it's
cooked.
Right,
fucked.
and honestly, lowering rates, raising rates, that it wouldn't. I agree with you, TXMC.
Yeah,
Both
they
of
can't do
those,
shit for
it won't.
housing.
It doesn't. It won't fix. But the only solution, honestly, and it's kind of like trying to fix is trying to like nail a nail into the
Sell
wall
the
with a
MBS.
sledgehammer, is to sell some of that MBS. Yeah, they have to
Yeah.
sell some of those securities. That would certainly I mean, that you need to get that off your balance sheet anyway. You shouldn't be holding trillions in mortgage-backed
They can't
securities
let
as a
real
Fed
estate prices
anyway.
go down, though. That's the problem that they're in.
What?
They cannot get real estate. They 100% don't want real estate prices to go up, even though much as they say they do.
Right.
I think they're at a high limit right now for a lot of different other reasons. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you actually wanted to cool inflation, I don't know what the magic number is. Maybe you sell two of them a day. Like, start low, whatever.
no, but the the pro- the
Well,
pro-
they are
Try
rolling
20
off.
million, try 20
they're
million a
rolling
If you
day.
off
if
is what
if
their
you look at
strategy.
the if you
Right.
go to the Fred website, you
But how
search
long is that
securities
going to
held
take?
outright. You
20
can look
years.
at the MBS, and yeah, they've
Right,
been
right.
rolling
And you're
off.
trying to solve you're like they're trying to solve inflation like this year and next year. You sell some of it, a little bit, and that will have an effect on inflation.
Yeah,
It
but
will.
but Matt, here's the kicker. If they start to sell any MBS and that sounds the
Yeah.
signal, real estate's going to implode and send the economy into a recession. And then they're going to have to reverse
If you
course.
did it
They're
small,
going to have
but
to
if you did it
reverse
small
course even
enough,
harder. They can't though, because it's
yeah.
a signal. If they started to sell any of it, right? It's like Sailor
But that's
telling
what.
everyone
But
that he's
that's what.
selling 32 Bitcoin, and then fucking
But
Bitcoin
that's where
crashes
the
20K.
right. Well, that's where the jawboning comes in. That's where the like. This is the whole reason why you have a damn press conference every FOMC meeting, and it's primetime television on
Yeah,
CNBC.
how
Like
did that
that's
go for Sailor when he basically soft
yeah.
launched him selling Bitcoin?
I mean, it didn't go well for Jerome Powell in 2018, but like honestly, that's the only real answer they have. It's not some 25 basis point hike later this year
Yeah, that's
or
not going to
cut.
do shit.
It won't do anything.
Yeah, maybe getting the fucking 20% of energy supply that's missing, getting that back online might help a little bit. Maybe. Just a thought.
I
Hey,
mean,
can I make a
go
comment
ahead.
on that real quick? Yeah, just I'm looking at the tanker rates, guys, and the tanker rates are like blowing out through the roof right now for shipping crude. They seem to be for this crisis like correlated to they appear to be correlated to interest rates from the beginning of the crisis. That there's a strong correlation there for interest rates are going up, mortgages rates are going up. So I'm trying to figure out like what is going on here with Bitcoin's finding a floor, interest rates are
Is it?
surging, and at the exact same time that like the tanker rates for shipping fuel and logistics are all blowing out like at the exact same time. Have
Yeah.
any of you guys seen like this correlation and you guys getting any signal
Well,
from this?
I
it's
think. Oh, go ahead.
I think the clear correlation is that the when you take 20% of the world's energy supply off the market for at this point 3, 4, 5 months, you are not just going to cause inflation. You're at an inflection point where you're going to cause shortages. And when you cause shortages, it means spending goes down because you don't even have the product to sell it, and you send the entire global economy into a recession. Like that's what people are fearing right now. Like it's basically this conflict is like as much as people have memory hold it, you've taken off 20% of the global energy supply. Like, what do you think that's going to do to the global economy? It's not going to be good. And so, obviously, inflation is ticking up. This is the first stage of what taking 20% of the energy supply off the markets do. Inflation goes up. Inflation hasn't even seeped into the supply chain yet, and it's about to in these next couple prints. But then now we're,
Right.
we're on the verge of things just not being available because of the shortage, right? Like all the
Yeah.
jet fuel, all the byproducts, the nitrogen, the fertilizers that are coming from that area of the world for the byproducts of the Iranian oil. So everyone's kind of like everyone's basically faded every piece of bad news. Like, look, we've been in this conflict and the Nasdaq has went up faster than any period of time. But now we're starting to hit that point where people are really taking a deep breath and looking at market valuations, being like, this is the highest PE of the equities have ever been, basically on par with .com and 1929. And we're literally staring an elephant in the face, which is 20% of the global energy market is gone, and it's going to start really affecting the economy. So people are now having a come to Jesus moment about what does this actually mean? Like look at Bitcoin. Look at the price of Bitcoin. Like, do you think the price of Bitcoin is doing what it's doing? Basically, the lowest it has ever been on a daily RSI. Do you think it's doing that just because people are taking their money to the AI bubble trade? Or do you think people are doing that because they see a real massive liquidity crisis on the horizon due to this conflict, right? Obviously, it's a bit of
Yeah.
both, but there is an obvious
They're not fleeing
de-risking.
the eight. They're not. I mean, this was a correlation of one day where some of the biggest AI names that we follow had negative 10, 15, 25% red days. So that's not, Bitcoin isn't selling because people are then immediately buying Micron, you know?
No, but that was
Yeah.
the case for the last basically a couple weeks. Like money has been
Okay.
leaving, but
Sure. That might have been the story last month, but I think you're right where it's the realization that, look, this conflict was supposed to be over weeks ago, if not a month or two ago, and people are realizing, hey, it seems like we're not any closer, honestly, today than we were in May, than we were in April, and like they were getting by with we're tapping reserves. This and that nation is releasing strategic oil. We had our own. Uh, 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 we had a fallback. We had emergency supply to get us through a couple weeks or even a month or two. But now you're hitting. Okay, you actually have to pay the market rate, and some people are realizing if the Strait of Hormuz is not an option to me, it's double or triple the price to get
Well,
replacement
it's not even
oil.
the price though.
Yeah,
It's the ability just not to have it. Like paying 20% or whatever it is, or how much ever premium has went on to oil and oil byproducts is one thing, but not having it on the other hand, no matter what, that's the kicker, right? And that's like where we're kind of getting into now, right? And the longer that this conflict goes on, people are going to have more and more come to Jesus moments of being like, oh fuck, like this is not like some
Yep.
isolated geopolitical event in the Middle East. Like this is affecting the global economy. And the
yeah,
U.S.
and
is
now it's
the
getting into the supply
yeah, the
chain
U.S.
and
is
manufacturing.
yeah, the U.S. is almost fairly 100% isolated because we have enough energy and oil for ourselves, and we even have excess to sell to other people. But guess what? When you live in a fucking modern day global economy, if everyone around you is in a recession or fucking even struggling to get energy at any cost, it's going to affect you in a major way. Like we live in a global
Yeah,
economy, so just
but
because
what but we're a net importer. So all of those goods that we enjoy and rely on, that's where we're seeing the CPI inflation keep creeping up and up, because those goods are more expensive from Southeast
Yeah.
China, from India, from
And
parts of
because of
Africa,
tariffs.
etc. Well, tariffs were there, tariffs were there before February 2026.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is an extra straw on the camel's back,
But
unfortunately.
our export terminals. Here's what we got to keep in mind, though, guys. Our export terminals are bottlenecks. Our exports they're totally maxed out right now. Like
Sure,
they
yeah.
maxed out in February, March. Our ability to export to the Asian and the European markets for whether it be kerosene, LNG, kerosene, jet fuel, LNG, diesel, etc. We were already exporting like so much that we could to the Ukrainians,
Yeah,
just so they
to Europe to
could
make up
fight right
for,
now.
right, you're already making up for Russia's slack, and now you're trying to make up for Strait of Hormuz. Like that math doesn't math out.
Guys, what happens when crops come in short in the fall because fertilizer, came in short and got
Yep.
expensive, and that's going to be interesting.
you're not going to be able to
With
use those
parts of
corn,
the world
you're not going to be able to use those corn on
totally
the cobs to shove
dependent
up your ass
on
anymore,
fucking
Shinobi.
other people's exports. That's going to be really interesting for places totally dependent on foreign food imports to, get food.
Yeah.
Hey,
Like China.
don't worry, man.
Yeah. Southeast Asia
I got my
is
supply
in
of
trouble there.
tamales. Don't you worry. We got that maize.
No, the
Um,
Chinese got what 1.3 billion barrels in reserve. Though, look, we are hoping our strategy is based upon the Russians and the Chinese stabilizing the supply. This is insanity.
yeah,
This
that's
is
fucking
Yeah, but
retarded.
that reserve is for China though. That doesn't help India. That doesn't help Southeast
they're
Asia.
releasing it. They're
Not
releasing it in the
for
East Asian market.
themselves. For themselves.
Yeah, China actually has a fucking stockpile of like everything from rare
Yeah.
earth to fucking potatoes to fucking
Yeah, but they're
petroleum products.
but they're not giving it to like
No.
Sri
Yes,
Lanka.
yes, they
That's
are.
for
They're making
China.
deals. They made a deal. They made a deal at the
Yeah.
beginning of this with the Philippines. They're making
Okay.
deals with everybody.
Yeah.
Selling some of their reserve to Philippines or something.
Yes, yeah, they are. Just as the
Okay,
same
that's
way the
interesting.
Russians are making deals with the
They kind of
Japanese.
have to though, right? Like it's kind of
Is
like
that
when
critical supply chain though? Is
yeah,
that, I
it
mean,
probably is because
yeah.
if let's say the Philippines wasn't able to secure oil or whatever product it is, and then their economy completely shuts down, and the Philippines obviously has a quick, fairly tight fucking supply chain connection to China, and so it starts to hurt China, right? So China has to fucking keep them afloat. It's the same reason why
Yeah.
the U.S. is going to have to give swap lines to all the fucking countries in the Middle East.
Yep.
Because the U.S. went in there, bombed everyone, destroyed all the economies, and they're just sitting there with their dicks in their hands, being like,
Dude,
what the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
a
And
lot
they're
You
of
give us,
remote islands in the South Pacific, like legit,
yeah.
like have power grids half built around diesel generators.
yeah, Lord Fortitua's ghost
Yeah.
isn't gonna have any power. You guys remember him?
Rip, rip.
Oh. Rest in peace. Yeah.
It was so like anticlimactic that like I literally just found out like 6 months after he died. I'm like, oh, he died. That's a rip.
Yes. It was like 2022 or something.
Yeah,
That was sad. He was a regular Spaces member back in the day.
yeah. When they
The
first came out.
Australians, the
Yeah,
Australians were smart
2022.
though.
Come on.
They start the Australians started leveraging like their delivery of like commodities contracts based upon them getting fuel.
Dude,
So
what the fuck
they
is this
secured
timeline?
their fuel contracts really fast, and like the government backstopped those contracts. That was really
I used to
like
think that
I was wondering
Chernobyl.
how they were going to do it.
Dude,
I
They're
what the
used
smart.
fuck is this timeline? A fucking like member of royalty and a member of the government of a random Pacific Island nation spent all of COVID lockdowns talking to us fucking degenerate pieces of shit. Like, what the fuck?
all I
Yeah.
remember that he was pro-vax. That's all I remember. Nothing to do with his death. I swear.
I mean, everyone was at
No,
one
they
point or
weren't.
another.
I would never
Even Trump,
pro-vax.
Magoo, even Trump was in
Yeah, Trump's a
2020.
fucking loser.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm
Matt,
saying. You know what I'm like.
you're
Everyone,
talking,
it was the
Matt.
vibe. Everyone was for
Don't
it before
don't
they were
don't
against it.
don't try this because there's two people on stage who in like March of 2020 were like, if a vaccine comes out and you take it, you're a retard because this entire family of viruses fucking mutates so fucking fast. A vaccine is fucking useless.
Yeah, I remember there was a group of us, and even there was a lot of fucking Bitcoiners. Like I remember Francis, he was full fucking like garbage bag
Oh,
wearing for the
Francis,
first
yeah,
couple weeks of fucking COVID. You had
Oh
Luke
my
Dash
god.
literally living in a
yeah,
cave,
yeah,
lysoling his groceries.
yeah.
And there was
Wearing
like
double smoke
yeah,
masking and
yeah,
yeah.
and we're out here being like, I'll even go pull up some of my tweets from like super early in 2020, being like these vaccines are the worst idea since sliced bread. Not just in terms of like the danger part, but like the effectiveness of them. It's like, one, you've never been able to create a vaccine that inhibits basically the transmission or even helps you with SARS viruses, and SARS viruses mutate so fast that you would never be able to get ahead of the curve of basically people catching it with the correct vaccine, right? Remember how they kept on trying to trick people? Oh, you took your two vaccines. Now you need the Delta booster, then you need the Alpha
Right.
booster, and then you need the fucking Loofer
It
Doofer.
was good. It was good money, and money was good. Yeah. It's been 6 months. You need to re up on your
Right.
on your whole allotment.
Yeah, they were giving out little punch cards for everyone. If you
Oh
remember
yeah.
those, where like you have the
Oh yeah.
dates of all the times you got your fucking booster shot.
Yeah, I bought
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the U.S. Army guys
Dude,
have been
I
injected
may
with
or
shit
may
since the
not have
1960s.
used office equipment that belongs to a company in this space to commit a felony by creating a
We
fake
found out
vaccine
we can
card.
finally sue Nakamoto for misuse of office supplies.
Nakamoto didn't exist back then, you
Yeah, but now
fucking
they do.
moron.
They've now taken on all the responsibilities and liabilities of Bitcoin Inc.
Dude, I didn't even
Um,
fucking work for Bitcoin Magazine during COVID, you stupid fuck.
yeah, you did. You did. We know you did.
No, I
You
didn't.
were a
I started
contractor. You were a
You
like
were just free.
contractor.
No,
that
he was
doesn't
freelancer. You
count.
were a freelancer back then. Yeah.
I have DM chats where literally like talking to like Bitcoin.
And actually, no, I didn't start until the end of like 21. So fuck you, fucking goldfish, fucking memory
Did you
having
blow through
fucking
that hundred
retards.
thousand dollar grant from fucking Jack yet?
100K. What the fuck are you
How
talking?
much was that grant for, Shinobi? You blow it on German beer and fucking Brussels sprouts?
Like 20K,
Oh, so
dude.
you did blow it on German beer and Brussels sprouts. He doesn't deny it. He's silent. That tells everyone what you need to know. But yeah, getting back to the Bitcoin price, we are literally below 60,000 yet again. There has been no bid. Back to 59,700, heading lower.
Yeah, we're gonna make new lows for sure.
It's gonna be
100%.
like this all.
It's so close. There's no reason to think it won't.
Yeah, at this point. Well,
So
you say new lows.
who's going the McDonald's route when Bitcoin dies, and who's going the Hill People militia
I'm
route?
going to the militia route. I'm not going back
Yeah,
to
I'm trying to
McDonald's.
figure out how like all our militias are gonna like coordinate with each other.
They won't. That's the point. It's a
Yeah.
fucking militia.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well,
They use
militias
mesh
will. We got
networks.
to do splinter
Dude,
cells.
I
don't
noticed
try
everyone.
and fight a war without coordinating anything, dumbass. See how that fucking
I noticed.
goes.
Well,
It'd be
I
awful.
noticed the last holdouts there. I noticed everyone's back from Noster. Like if it, like Matt. What's
Oh
his
man, I
name?
haven't been over there in like 3
The
years.
only
Yeah, but
reason
like the
why
last holdouts are back from
The
Noster.
only
They're all
reason
back
why they're
here.
back is because those guys are trying to control narratives of like absolute horseshit that's happening on Nostr
Did
right
Dr.
now.
Jeff come back,
I don't.
or is he
I
still
am
over there?
purposely not paying attention to that
I,
ridiculous
I
BIP
find it hilarious that
110
American
and all that.
HODL disappears in the bear market so no one can call him out on his absolute retard takes, and then he comes back in the bull market pretending that he's right again. Like it's that's the most comical thing. But here we are.
Dude, where the fuck is that fucking video meme I made of Francis during COVID, dude? Where he like walked in like, no, I have the special bracelet. I don't need a mask.
Oh, I remember that. He walked into a mall saying he
God
had a special bracelet. It was just a random plastic bracelet.
What the fuck?
No, Francis went into like this mall videotaping himself, and then you need to wear a diaper or a face diaper. And he told the security guard that he had a special bracelet. Like he made these random bracelets that say I don't need a mask," and then just like told everyone that they were medical bracelets, and just said, "Hey, here's these. I don't need to wear one. I have a bracelet," and just walked in everywhere. It was pretty funny, actually.
A medical
You'd be
bracelet.
surprised though, like if you just pretend like you
If it looks
belong, no one will ever ask you anything. Like you could like go
if it
walk
looks
in.
official enough,
Yeah,
yeah.
like if you walk anywhere with a construction vest with a couple pylons, they will let you in anywhere.
Yeah, just walk in like you own the place,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, I work here. I'm here fixing the leak, right? Like
It's in a similar way when you meet new people, it really works to warm them up. If you just talk to them like you've known them for 10 years, like don't act weird at all. Just be super casual with them. It kind of like catches people off guard. You just got to act like you're not doing anything suspicious at all, and no one will look at you twice.
yeah, on that note, we're dropping like a fucking stone here. 59,500.
Yeah, that's super
Mm.
weak.
Can someone
It's
walk in there and fix the Bitcoin price?
what do
Just
we
act super confident.
what
Just every single bounce is a lower
what
high.
are we
It's
on?
it's still
Yeah.
it's slap.
Yeah, the RSI is 14 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's because we were
Well, it
talking about
can't go
earlier,
lower than
like it went
14, so
7
there we
times
go.
faster than in 2022 from this point of the bear. And so
It's just
we got the
straight
lowest
down.
RSI in
Well,
6
you
years.
like honestly, we better hope that what's the pivot low of that whole chop area? The pivot low is 50K, but like we
I mean, big picture, like
Oh, of
it's gonna
2024?
be
yeah,
like this over the. It's gonna be like this over the whole weekend, honestly.
yeah, well, you better hope that we better hope that like well, if we get through this area here, we better hope that like the 52 area fucking holds, the 50 to 52 area holds.
You told us 55K an hour ago.
Dude, this
It's
shit
lower
For
is
what?
now.
clearly
You've
the
already
No,
moved it
same
lower. You've already moved
fucking
it
no,
lower.
shit.
I
No.
Dude,
said no,
holy fuck.
I said
This is so
I said we
Moving his
optically
targets lower.
the same shit as the last cycle, just more
Of
prolonged.
course,
It's
no.
of course,
literally the
Shinobi.
same shit as the last cycle, just more dragged out, more prolonged,
Well, I would say it's
This
taking
actually
seems
faster.
longer.
Well,
Actually, I
this
would say
bear
it's
this
market
seems
has been
faster. It's
faster.
kind of
This seems
insane.
faster.
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
No, I'm just what I said about
This is
50.
the start of the we go sideways now, and everyone cries.
No,
I
well,
I I
uh,
would
Well, it would
pay
have to
good
go
money.
lower
I
first, I
would
think.
donate.
yeah.
You need $20,000. Can you guarantee us sideways next? I'll make that donation.
We just went sideways around these levels for like 3 months. It's got to go lower, and then I think it goes sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chart. I'm just looking about like how I'm looking at historical now of where the support potentially could be, and we chopped around. Basically got as low as 50K in that 2024 chop zone, and that lines up with some touch points back in 2020 and 2021, basically 50K. Because if that doesn't hold, like I have no idea on a technical basis, like where the fuck there would
Fucking
be support.
38K gang,
The
rally up if that's the
200.
case.
I mean,
Yeah,
the 200 week is basically a giant magnet. It'll.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
sure, it can wick below. It can. Every single bear market that we've had with Bitcoin, the 200K. I mean, the 200 week moving average has been cracked, has been tested. Price has
yeah.
fallen
Yeah,
through.
I heard today people were busting out the 300-week moving
Oh
average.
yeah, they're
the
moving.
net.
Dude, when that one
Yeah.
gets hit, they're gonna
I've
break out
That's
the
never
the
heard.
new
400
new.
week.
I mean,
Where is the 300 weekly moving
isn't that
It's
average?
so
like
typical though?
53 or 54. I got to put it back on my chart. I never look at
Okay.
it, but I
Oh
looked
my
at it
god,
today.
I've never even heard of that in Bitcoin's terms. I've heard it with like gold that has been traded for fucking like 1,000 years, or at least you have price action going back until basically like the 30s. But I
But
haven't heard
here's the
that for
thing.
Bitcoin.
Even though 2022 was a pretty brutal bear market and we plunged straight through the 200 week moving average, even if you just bought as soon as we touched the 200 week, that would have been 22K back in June 2022. If you had just longed 22K, you were in profit by the next year. Like
Oh yeah,
you were above water, you were in profit. Like if your average
Yeah, but Matt, Matt,
if you got
Matt.
away from 2022 with a Bitcoin average of 22K, like you look like a
oh
king.
dude, I had so many buys I was proud of down there. I
Yeah,
got some in
I
the
was.
high 15s. Oh
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, hand up. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
but
40K. I'm gonna start DCAing here in
yeah,
I totally did
2022.
too. I was like, oh 30, yeah, let me get some of that, and then
yeah.
it
What
fucking
about
got
in
cut in half.
retrospect? How did you feel? How did you feel when price hit like what was it, 14K or whatever it was,
15.
15K?
Dude, I bought at
That was. Oh,
15.8. I have a
I went
receipt on
eight.
strike from
Yeah,
buying at
I did.
15.8
I bought actually. That was actually kind of fun,
the
Magoo,
day
because
FTX collapsed.
yeah, that was actually that those 2 months were actually kind of fun because I knew Bitcoin would survive, but all those Bitcoin companies were priced for bankruptcy. And
Yeah,
I had a sneaky feeling that if we can just get through whatever this FTX thing was, and also because if we looked over to S&P 500 and Nasdaq and the broader markets and indexes, they were already on the rebound. They were already recovering. So it was clear like this is just FTX to blame, this capitulation. So
yeah.
I started buying a whole bunch of Bitcoin companies, uh, um, hand over fist.
Did you do pretty well on those?
Yeah, some of those were those. Some of them like clean.
Oh, did we lose Matt or was that me?
We must have. I think we lost Matt.
I think he
He's
was
cut
about to
out.
say Clean Spark, which was a pretty good
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah, well, the funniest thing is just looking at the Bitcoin price, and then like I didn't realize I looked at Ethereum. It's almost $1,500, bro. It was
Yeah,
$5,000 like yesterday. It seems like.
dude. Today Cardano broke down and it's touching 2020 prices.
I must have moved through the mesh network, the Wi-Fi mesh. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Clean Spark, right?
CleanSpark was one. Riot was another. I'm trying to remember when I bought what Bitcoin miners when. But I mean, I should have. No complaint with CleanSpark. That was a 10x. But like, obviously, anyone who bought MicroStrategy on 50 cents on the dollar in the FTX capitulation, you know, obviously they crushed it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't want
Speaking about
that.
MS,
No one wants that. But if you get it, I mean,
no,
if you want to touch margin, that's when you do.
I am looking at MSTR. I nibbled a little bit today, but looking at like where it was respective to last bear markets, it's not anywhere like in that juicy territory. Even it's still kind of expensive right now.
What do
yeah.
you
The
mean?
MNAV's basically break even, isn't it?
No, it is, but like
No, it's not.
it. Well,
I thought it was
what
around one.
calculation? It's what
You don't
calculation you
use
use.
don't use their
Don't use
website.
sailors.
No, don't
Yeah,
Don't
use
use
sailors. No,
sailors.
that's the
the real
problem.
calc is like one, right?
No, it's lower. It's
No,
like
no, it's like point
9.
8.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
It's
after
I
po-
mean
today for
they're
sure, right?
here's
yeah.
where like the metric that matters. Their price to book is point 0.9. That's
Yeah,
what
Yeah.
really
yeah,
matters. Yeah.
Yeah, but like what you were saying, Matt, like point nine in it, we don't know where the Bitcoin bottom is. That's not like a juicy deal. That's why I only nibbled today. Like if
yeah.
we got down
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
point 0.6, maybe even point 0.7, then that'd be
I would have to
more.
feel good about the Bitcoin low before I
Absolutely.
looked at any derivatives of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any
I mean,
proxy of stimulus.
that might be the one where forget about them until September, October.
Yeah.
Just like fill your Bitcoin bags, and then when we think we're coming out of this, oh yeah, quick,
Yeah.
what's the
And yeah,
evaluation on strategy?
something I've really been like trying to stress to anyone who'll listen is that, like, it took several weeks, like really a couple of months for the market to top. It's taken at least 6 months for us to go down. It's probably going to take a couple of months for you to know the low is in, like at least several weeks, right? That's just the way it works. It was
Yeah.
never just
Yeah.
it was never just
Yeah.
going to spike to the low and then rip back to the highs and do a 50%
No,
bounce.
like, yeah, bottoms have to be confirmed. So what
Yeah,
needs to happen is we need to find a bottom. We don't know where it will be at the time. Then it needs to retest that bottom and then move higher off of that,
right,
right?
right.
Rarely,
Today we've been
very,
failing the
yeah,
most recent
yeah,
bottom today. Right.
very seldomly do you see a bottom reached with a tick and then it never be seen again.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very,
Only
very, very
COVID, and
rarely.
that was because the Fed was stepping in with like the biggest stimulus response in Congress that we've ever seen,
Right.
and they kind of helped backstop everything. Everything made a V bottom.
Yeah. So apparently
Yeah.
Solana is $60. I just looked at. That's
Yep.
fucking hilarious.
Solana's basically below any of the lows from the last 2 years. It's like 2023 prices. Cardano is below the lows from the last bear market. Like it's touching 2020 prices.
Yeah.
Ethereum looks pretty weak. Ethereum's below the stablecoin market cap pretty solidly, which is not something it's done in a really basically forever, except for brief wicks.
Yeah.
XRP looks like it's
I was
almost a
being
dollar. Last time I saw it was
I,
at 108.
I was being spicy. I said Ethereum 1,000 and XRP 50 cents in the 2026 bear market. It looks like, I mean, shoot, they're on their way. It's
They're on
close.
their
XRP
way.
is
500
105
more
now.
dollars on Ethereum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ethereum literally went from 2,000 to 1,500 in like fucking 5 days or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like
And
all those, like Ethereum
Yep.
and Solana and XRP, and like Matt, you and I were talking about this earlier in the other space, and even just like Total Three, they all just did a swing fail of the all time high from 5 years ago, and then
yeah.
completely retraced the whole move. Like that's in past bear markets, there's always that, oh, everything's dead, nothing's coming back, and we know it's true for a lot of altcoins, but the top ones have kind of hung around. And when we've said, like, after 2021, people said alts were dead. They had just made huge all-time highs from 2017, but this time they didn't do that. Right, almost none of them made new all-time highs and then held them for any length of time, except Hyperliquid, which hasn't even been around. And so I think
Yep.
it's fair to at least entertain the idea that this time is a little different for altcoins, for at least a lot of the most prominent ones that have been around for 2+ cycles. Like, things might be changing for them, and some of them might not be around in any relevant fashion next cycle and kind of go the way of like the Litecoins of the world.
Yeah. Aave's down to $58, which historically, it has not seen that since the very lows of 2022.
Right. Yeah, they're just getting absolutely rinsed. I
Oh
think
my
that's the
God.
point of being in there.
I pulled up the monthly chart on Aave. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 monthly red candles. Holy fuck. Imagine being
That's
red,
insane.
10 red candles. Oh my God. That's fucked. 10.
That's like some safe moon price
Oh
action.
my
Dude, I
God.
saw someone posting yesterday, and they were like, do you think Charles Hoskinson taking a break is just like a temporary thing? I've been investing since 2017, but now I'm really
Oh
starting
no.
to wonder. And it's like, dude, this guy's been holding Cardano for fucking a decade, man. Holy shit.
Oh,
Yeah, he sold it.
you've
Yeah.
missed so many blow off tops too. If you had been here and been in Cardano for a decade.
Yeah, Uniswap too is the lowest it's trading at since basically IPO.
Yeah.
It's down so low. At this peak of the November bull run in November of 2024, it got up to $20. It's $2 now.
Yeah, look at Arbitrum. It's like all time lows, straight down. Blast, straight
Yeah.
down. It's complete garbage coins, but
Look
they were
at
Ar-
all like,
you mean Arboretum?
right.
I don't
Pump.
know.
Remember Pump Fund? That was all the rage last cycle. That thing all time lows. It's now one 1/100th. No, excuse me, 1/1000th of a
Yeah.
penny. That's
Tia,
cool.
which everyone bought to try to get rich on airdrops, which has never
Oh,
had a single
Celestia.
airdrop.
Oh, that was
Tia
Will. That was
Celestia.
Will Clemente's favorite coin,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
Oh,
about to be all
jeez.
time lows.
Oh God, I remember he got out of it. He at least had the fucking brains to be like, I'm out of this trade after he lost like whatever it was. But now it's even lower.
Sui's back at like 2 year lows.
Oh my God. Well, no one uses any of
No one
those
uses
fucking
any of this shit, dude.
Right.
no.
No. Yeah. That's
None
wild.
of it, bro. Like, yeah, I bet there's still morons out there right now that are looking at these prices, being like, "Oh, this is a fucking generational buy." You just
Right.
know it.
Someone's making a shopping list and they're like, I'm gonna buy blue chip alts, bro.
Yeah, blue chip, bro. That's like going to
I'm
a
gonna
fucking. That's
equal
like
weight.
no. That's like going to a fucking EDM concert and then going to the fucking urinals, the outhouses, and looking in the toilet and saying that you're looking for some blue
That's
chips.
like making a dinner reservation, but it's at fucking White Castle.
Yeah,
Well,
fuck.
did you see
Oh.
what they created last cycle? They created like top 50 or top 100 crypto like ETFs where like
Oh,
just
there's
buy.
like the Coinbase
Yeah,
index.
I
The
was about to say,
coin,
isn't there an index?
yeah. In
yeah.
coin,
There's a
yeah,
few
yeah.
indexes. The Coinbase index. There's
How those indexes
Doesn't
doing?
BlackRock have one?
actually, let me look right now.
uh,
Let me look what the
I
coin
thought
index is.
I thought
Man,
Binance
so
and
I haven't even
CoinMarketCap
seen
had
that
its
thing or
own.
how
I
it's
think Binance
constructed.
had one.
Okay, so the Coin 50 perp that I'm looking at
Yes.
right now
How we
is at
sitting? How we
it's
looking, fam?
it's $219, and
Okay.
basically in October of 25 it was close to 600.
Okay. It's
So
not great, not
not
terrible.
great, not
Not
great.
great,
What do
not
you mean?
great.
What do you mean not
Oh my god,
terrible?
I'm looking at it, dude.
We were
It needs
talking about
it needs to go up 300% to break even.
Wow, this chart is awful, dude.
Well, it's not
Holy
as bad
shit.
as NACA. NACA needs to go up 3,000% to get back to all time
Yeah.
highs.
Jeez.
Jesus.
Look at Trump coin. Trump
Oh
coin's a buck
god.
50.
I
Well,
seen
Buck 50 for some Trump. Anyone? Can I
I
get some
seen a
Trump?
funny I've seen a funny tweet today. It was like buying Zcash at $300 is like buying Trump coin at $80.
oh man. You speaking of all time lows, World Liberty Financial is down there.
Oh fuck, man! Remember I tweeted. I don't know who
Oh.
this was, but I tweeted on someone's account. I'm like, "Hey, everyone, come look at this retard." It was some guy who literally said he sold a lot of his Bitcoin and his biggest bag was Zcash. Literally like 4 days ago at the peak. Like, let me see if I can
Oh my
find it.
god.
Oh. Oh
Oh my
no. I
god!
mean,
Well,
the
there was that
sad
guy
one was
Gainsey, right? Who Gainsey tweeted about Zcash when it was right at the top, and he was like, "You could basically full port Zcash and do a 10x and not think twice about it." And it's been down only ever since then.
But that's what I was warning. The who's who of the silliest people in crypto were shilling that a couple months ago, all the way to a couple weeks ago. They had truly ran out of. It starts at Barry Silbert. You run through all the crypto
Well, Barry
VCs,
Sherbert's just
and
lying because it's his coin and he has the
yeah,
fucking the Zcash
yeah.
ETF or
Well,
whatever it is.
I'm sure, but I'm sure that's part of the pitch to the first few crypto VCs and hedge funds. Like, look, I basically have
The
I've
control of the
basically cornered
supply.
yeah I've
Yeah.
basically cornered the market for every three Zcash that are mined. Every 3 out of 10 are mined to my wallets. So like I can the flow is arbitrarily low. New coin inflation and I'm sure that was the whole part of the pitch until
Yeah,
it comes
probably.
crashing
Okay, I
down.
just posted to the nest. This guy said I rotated some BTC to Zcash. Zcash is now my biggest bag. He said
Oh,
my stretch BTC is partially invalidated due to sale or mismanaging in my eyes, and he did that literally fucking 2 days ago.
3 days ago. I
Yeah,
see it.
three
Yeah.
at the top, bro, at the fucking top of
No.
Zcash.
How do you
Oh,
see the problems with Stretch and then you're like, so I'm gonna sell my Bitcoin for
yeah, let me
Zcash?
full port to Zcash. Oh my fuck. These guys are so like
What's the Venn diagram of Stretch looks sketchy. I see some problems with the design, but Zcash, bro, Zcash. I'm selling
that
my
guy
Bitcoin for
and that
Zcash.
that that guy and that guy
One
alone.
one of one, one of
Yeah.
one.
Oh my fucking god. Remember the Tau coin that Barry Silbert was fucking shilling too? The fucking
Jason Calacanis was showing that bullshit on the All In podcast and all over his timeline. Yeah, that
yeah.
was
So
Yeah.
Jason. That okay, yeah,
Jason
that round
Calcanis
tripped.
looks like
That
a
round tripped.
grown-up version of the main character on Boss Baby. Have you ever seen that cartoon, Boss
Oh
Baby?
yeah,
He
I don't
literally
think I
looks like
have.
if Boss Baby grew up to be a grown up human, it would be
he
Jason.
he looks like a thumb with hair. Honestly,
That's what I used to say about Mike Pence. He looked like a wrinkly thumb that had been in a bath for too long, and then someone put white Lego hair on top of it.
yeah. If you took a thumb and you put a blonde a blonde wig on it, and then put some crow's feet around the eyes, that's kind of Jason Calacanis.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Every time I look at the price chart and it's just abysmal, I just think of that Joe Carlasari video of
Oh,
in
Oh man, he's
October.
taken some hard L's the last few months, dude.
he's
Oh
not logging in. He didn't bother logging in today. He
no.
started the weekend early.
I
He's
saw that
not.
he had a bet. I remember I heard it in a space a couple weeks ago. He bet Gary Cardone it wouldn't go below 60 again, and it did today.
Yeah,
And so Gary was
yeah.
like, "Where's my money, bro?"
How much did he bet? Probably
I
like
think it was
four
like
It was like
cents.
I think it
50.
was
No, I
no,
thought
I
it was
think it
like
was like
50.
$100 or a couple hundred
Oh
bucks.
my god! Wow,
No,
$100,
no,
big
no. It was
spenders.
I thought it was in the thousands.
Was it?
I thought it was. I
Okay.
thought it was legit. You,
Maybe it
was
was
it
$1,000.
20?
You know,
Was
I
it
don't think it was a
20,000?
crazy number, but it was something.
Joe doesn't have
Okay.
20,000 to bet, so that's probably not true.
Doesn't
Yeah,
he?
he still
Isn't
had.
he kind of a high roller gambler? Doesn't he kind of
But
roll
credits to Joe,
gamble
he
pretty?
left that video up from November where he basically said bears are retards.
You kind of have to leave it up because
Mm.
what do you like? People are just gonna like repost
Everyone's
it
seen it,
anyways,
yeah.
right? It's like the Mike Alfred
Mhm.
tweets. Like, there's like literally an account out there that like keeps track of all of Mike Alfred's deleted tweets.
It
So
it reposts screenshots of whatever he deletes automatically. It's kind of crazy.
fuck, Mike's had some pretty big L fucking tweets that he's had to delete. So that's pretty funny.
I mean, Mike has been shitting on Ben Cohen for months, and here we
Mike
are at
Alfred's
this
a
price.
fucking slimy grifter.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the
Do-
strategic Bitcoin reserve bills language that got posted today from that Blegich guy?
Oh, what is it? More
No,
shit
tell
that's
us.
never
What's up?
gonna see the floor of the house, let alone passed.
Yeah, I don't think it's really going to get voted on. It's kind
Of
of just
course
like a
not.
framework, it's an act, and it kind of leaves some of the decisions up to the
So
Treasury
it's
and whatever.
useless.
Yeah,
Concepts of a plan, great.
yeah, but like it basically is like, yeah, so we're going to definitely fund it from things from civil asset forfeiture, and we're going to try to tell someone we're going to have a 180-day study to see if there are budget neutral ways that we can buy Bitcoin,
Bro,
including the repricing of
that's
That's
the
gold
what they
same.
certificates.
started with. They started with that.
Yeah,
That's what
it's like
that's
almost
what
the
they were
same
saying in
thing that was written a few months
2024.
back. But like the funny thing is, there's all these. It's like you will not sell the Bitcoin for 20 years unless you can say that it's for national security or financial market purposes. And then it's like anything that goes in the digital asset stockpile, you're not allowed to sell it for 20 years
Oh
unless it's
my
for national
god.
security reasons.
Who
That's
determines
always the
that?
underscore
Yeah,
of
the
everything.
same executive branch. Like,
Uh,
congrats, it's all for national security.
yeah,
Oh my god.
I
Yeah,
like to read the language on it because I reply to a lot of people who post about the Bitcoin reserve because I think it's a completely retarded and pointless
it's
idea.
moronic.
Uh,
It was moronic. It was moronic from the jump. It's still moronic.
yeah,
Like, you wouldn't want them to even have one, because what is the purpose of a strategic reserve anyway? If you're in a crisis, they're dumping it, they're selling it. Hey, we're in an oil
Yeah.
crisis, we're going to dump and sell oil. Hey, we're in a Bitcoin, I don't even know what that would be, but we're in a
dude, it's in
Bitcoin
nothing.
crisis.
They can
We're going to
make their
start
own
dumping and
dollars.
selling Bitcoin because we need the value. You don't want that to exist.
Every argument for why we should do it, in my opinion, can be easily dismantled with a little bit of scrutiny and understanding how fiat sovereigns issue money and all those things.
Yep.
And I just don't. There's absolutely no function,
There's
especially.
there's one. There's only one.
Well,
And
right.
it's not
Magoo and I differ a little bit on this, so I know you have a view. I'll let you talk.
Oh, I
my
want to
my only
hear what.
my
Yeah.
only view is that it is basically the bat signal. Functionally and mechanically, you're right that it really does not give any value to either the US government or the US people to be sitting on Bitcoin, right? Because if you want to ever utilize said Bitcoin, you need to be essentially selling it and using it in some way or fashion, which is kind of defeats the whole purpose. Um, like gold. Look at what they're doing with gold. They're not doing anything with gold. Like
Nothing.
the gold reserves are at best they are a psychological deterrent, and that's it. And that's what I think the Bitcoin reserve would be. It would basically be, and I don't think they're going to put up this bat signal until everyone's bag who needs to have a bag is packed, whether that is the Michael Saylors, all the ETF holders, the entire 401k world, the wealth management world. When everyone's bag is finally packed, they will put out the bat signal. And what that bat signal does is basically let the world know that Bitcoin is real. Even though whatever that means, it is an investable asset. Because remember, Bitcoin right now, no one's touching Bitcoin. Like it's just us retards that are buying Bitcoin in a select few, right? It's basically the bat signal that basically then signals everyone else to get in the world when all the American populace already has their bags packed. That's all. That's the only real benefit is it just puts out a bat signal.
See, I think that like I'm not. I can't say
Publicity.
that you're
Yeah.
wrong, but I
Or
don't.
like the stamp of approval, I guess.
But see, like the way that I look at it is, um, the U.S. is and all developed world fiat sovereigns, but chiefly the United States because of their role, every incentive in the world for them is to at all times display full commitment to the current monetary standard, and that if they do anything that might suggest that they're going to change that standard or that they're not completely committed to the way things have been or something is about to change could cause significant, like unstoppable capital outflows
No, it
from
could. No,
dollar assets.
you're 100% you're right. Now this is where the
But
sleight
that's
of
not
hand.
right. Like, what would make them do that? They'd have to feel like the
Mm,
system was literally
No,
about to
but
end.
it comes down to the sleight of hand. Like I agree with you. If they went out there and issued new debt and just bought Bitcoin with it,
Oh my, that'd be over.
oh
that
yeah,
would be
it'd be
over.
game over.
Now,
Yeah.
the sleight of hand is basically getting Bitcoin, like them getting their hands on Bitcoin without having to issue new debt. So this whole word of basically whatever they use in that bill, the language about getting
Budget
Bitcoin
neutral.
budget neutral, like not going into debt or anything like that, whether it's asset forfeiture or whatever. Any way that they can get their hands on it, you have to do it. And I've been saying this since the very beginning: is they need to get their hands on Bitcoin and signal that they value it because they're holding it without actually buying Bitcoin. Because as soon as you buy, they're out in the free market buying Bitcoin. It creates the
Yeah.
scenario that you're talking about, TX. So they have Bitcoin. Like, don't let's not forget the U.S. government has a fuck ton of
Through
Bitcoin, right?
confiscation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
through confiscation.
Right.
And
Yep.
they just need to now officially form what they would call, what all these losers call, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, right? Right now, it's kind of in this floating ecstasy of like federal agencies' balance sheets, whether it's the Marshal
Right.
Service or is it on the Treasury or wherever
Yep.
this fucking things is. It, in my opinion, for it to be a real air quote strategic reserve, it needs to be something that's passed by law by the House, and it needs to be something that is outside of the control of the executive branch. It cannot be
Yep.
something under the Treasury. It can't be under the executive branch because comes at the whims and the whatever of the next president. Imagine if AOC, like Donald Trump, creates some strategic reserves and they put $5 billion worth of Bitcoin in it, and then the next election AOC comes in and they want retribution on Trump, and the only way they can hurt him is through basically crashing crypto because that's how he made all his wealth, and they just market sell that $5 billion because they can, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Well, the
you
plan is to have it under the Treasury, kind of the way that they have an exchange
yeah,
stabilization
but
fund.
that's worthless in my opinion.
I think so too.
It's beyond worthless because if it truly is like the exchange fund that is supposed to be used, right? They use that to mitigate currency exchange rate events and to basically manipulate the exchange rates, right? So you don't want them to just be selling the Bitcoin that they have in their reserve,
Right.
right?
But also, like, the only things that they have in that fund, they have some gold, but it doesn't get used for that as much. They mostly have euro and yen. And that's mostly what they use because those are the most direct levers to affecting the dollar exchange rate, which is literally the whole point of that fund. So, like, Bitcoin isn't even relevant in this conversation. It's for a very
Yep.
long time. Like, for what you're saying to play out, Magoo, it would have to be years,
Oh yeah,
decades
it's gonna take
probably.
a long time.
And so, what I think. I think I agree with you that they can't just go and do outright purchases like issue bonds and buy directly Bitcoin, because that would be a signaling disaster for the global reserve issuer. But I also don't think that their plan to one of the ideas, I should say, it's not the plan, one of the ideas, which is repricing the gold certificates with the treasury, from the treasury, at the Fed, repricing them and giving them the money that's the difference for today's gold price, and letting them buy it
That's just
that way.
printing money.
That would
That's just printing
that
money.
that it's hold on, it's kind of free, but the I think that would signal quite similarly to them issuing the bonds, first of all. But secondly, like that, them calling that budget neutral, it's one of those messaging sleights of hand, because correct,
Yeah, I
it
don't think
would
that's
not
budget
show up
neutral.
fiscally, but it would be a direct monetary expansion. And I don't think people really, a lot of the Bitcoiners I see cheering this idea on, they think it's like, it's just, oh, it's just free money. Oh, we just switch it into Bitcoin and it's no big deal. No, that's not true at all. The Fed would reprice gold certificates from $42 an ounce, whatever the fuck the gold price is today, and it would basically create between and 800 billion dollars worth of new reserves instantly in the TGA. And then as the Treasury spent those reserves into the banking system to buy Bitcoin off of whoever the fuck they buy it from, they're literally creating new deposits with that
It's
money. And it
deficit.
was
It's deficit
budget
spending.
neutral. It was completely untouched from the budget, just free money into the banking system. And so, like, it would be inflationary to buy a thing that the Fed just had a report out that said only 10% of Americans even have exposure to. So I think this would just be a deeply unpopular idea from the beginning. And it would,
Well,
in my
specifically
opinion, it
with
would
Trump
serve
in
no purpose
office,
anyway. You know, it doesn't do
specifically
anything for
with Trump in
finances.
office, Trump's approval ratings 30%. So like if
Yeah.
Trump did that, it would be clearly as plain as day, be a self-serving, self-enrichment
Right.
for
I think it
him.
would rub a lot of people the
Yeah.
wrong way. It
It
would feel, yeah.
would.
It
It
would cause
really
more
would.
damage than it would be better off not,
Yeah.
because you're just, yeah, reflexively you'd have so
Right.
much
And like
Yeah.
I'm glad we
pushback.
haven't even touched on the more idiotic ideas people have around this, which is like that it somehow bolsters the U.S.'s balance sheet and like makes their
What
finances
balance
more
sheet?
It's
appealing,
gonna help us. It's
or
gonna
lets them continue. It does. It's completely fucking retarded. It's not going to offset the debt because they
no.
would have to literally sell tens of trillions of dollars of Bitcoin into the
No,
free
not only
market.
that, but
Like it's
That's
that's
not
what.
going to
money.
happen.
Well,
Yeah, that's
that's what I was making fun of. That's what I was posting back in summer
People don't even talk about
2024.
these mechanics, dude. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
because
but
they're retarded,
I
bro.
literally have I literally. But if you look, like, Senator Loomis literally tries to reply to me and tell me, like, no, it would be possible, and like,
Oh, she replied to you, dude. Oh, you got to link me. I got to
yeah, it's
fucking
in the
talk some shit.
Bro,
reply.
she replied to me, dog. Let me find it.
Oh, dude, I want her to reply to me so bad. I can't fucking wait to talk to her about this shit.
Let me see if I can find it. I replied to her once and she responded back. And I'm like, you're a fucking
Every
idiot.
time I see her, a post about her saying some retarded shit about it offsetting the debt, I try to reply because I just want other people to know that she's completely full of shit. Because I still don't
Well,
think there's a lot of people who understand.
well, the funniest thing, like, she had this whole campaign of like going anti Powell, right? But she literally fucking confirmed Powell in fucking 2018.
Yeah, she's completely
Yeah.
self-serving as well. This is just a
Oh,
power
no
play
Well,
for her.
kidding.
she's retiring. This is clearly
Yeah.
the last chance to up her credentials and bona fides for private sector, to get some sort of, get in with some crypto
Coinbase,
lobbying.
Coinbase, guarantee, Coinbase,
Oh yeah,
Coinbase,
Coinbase could
Coinbase.
be
Oh yeah.
Coinbase, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But in the crypto lobbying
And she wants
firm,
to get those
uh,
crypto speaking fees at like the new
absolutely,
conferences, and she wants to go talk to bigwigs on Wall Street about it.
yeah. Leverage those
Yeah. Position
senator,
yourself as an expert.
yep.
She's
Leverage those
anything but an
senatorial
expert.
connections, and
Yeah, people like her
yeah.
just like absolutely taint the conversation around this for everyday people, for regular people. Because like the vast majority of Americans, they don't talk to folks like you and I on these. They're on these spaces. They're not even on Twitter getting any of the information we are. Like they just living their lives, and then they hear this senator on like TV giving an interview saying things they've never heard, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's a really interesting idea." And like on the one hand, it gets people thinking about Bitcoin, but they start with false premises because it's a snake oil saleswoman on the fucking
Yeah,
TV. And I just can't stand that shit, man.
it's yeah. The one narrative that just grinds me so bad is somehow it's going to help us pay down our debt.
Yeah,
That's just
preposterous.
the levels of falsehood. I can't even comprehend it. And it's so and that's very attractive to certain Americans and certain voters that eat that up. Like, oh yeah, finally something, anything that
Right.
helps us pay down our debt. But it's never going to happen, and so you're putting a bad taste in their mouth about Bitcoin in general
Yeah.
and selling them false hope. Like, no.
Yeah, no, we need the private sector to own as much Bitcoin as possible. Just like, the gold, like you said, Magoo, the gold's doing absolutely nothing. It's been
Right.
sitting, like, let's just put aside the doubt about whether they even have it, because that's funny and no one can actually tell. But let's assume they do.
It's like Zcash.
If they do,
It's like a physical Zcash.
right. If they do have it, it's sitting there. It's been sitting there since 1973 doing nothing at the price from 1973, $42 and something an ounce. And it's just collecting dust. It's accomplishing absolutely nothing. It means so little to them that they haven't repriced it at any point in 50
Yeah.
fucking years.
So TX, I just posted in the nest. I responded to Loomis in 2024, and then she responded to me. Like she's been
Awful.
on the same. So read that. She basically said that, like, oh, to be clear, the strategic purpose of the Bitcoin strategic reserve is to explicitly strategically pay down government debt hanging over the head of every American. Put future Americans on a better footing, unencumbered by the debt that they have never supported or benefited from.
It's
And then
So
I
we're
so
told
gonna.
ridiculous.
and I
So
responded to her. I'm
yeah.
like, who's going to tell her you don't need to pay the debt down if you just have an offsetting asset? And she's like, the bill language is to hodl for 20 years minimum and establish proof of reserves. By that time, the proper next actions will be self-evident. Like, just complete
That
fucking
doesn't.
smoke
Yeah,
up your
that doesn't
ass.
even answer any of that. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's such a
she's.
good point. Pay down the debt is even a problem with that because yeah, look if you
You
have
can't pay down the debt. People don't
you can't
realize that
yeah
debt is money. Debt is the money. If the
right.
US if I literally brought out a fucking magic genie and rubbed the lamp and said, "Can you please pay down all of the US government debt, which is whatever 40 trillion now?" If he did that, what do you think would happen? That liability is someone else's asset. So that, like, it would literally $40 trillion in the global
Yeah.
economy would
I
go
mean, I
poof.
assume did we conquer some continent? Did we literally imminent domain a couple of countries and continents to get ourselves 40 trillion? Because you can't print it. You can't okay, so I guess you can forgive yourself our national debt and blow out the economy. You can't print that much money and blow out the economy. The only way you can actually tackle it is inflate it away or
Inflated away is the
take
only real
That's
thing.
really it.
take it
Inflated
from
away.
You're
someone
not gonna.
else.
You can't do austerity at this level. You can do a little
No,
bit of
I didn't
financial
say yeah.
repression, but
Notice I no yeah. Notice I didn't say austerity. Like,
yeah,
you could physically take it from someone else,
no. But
but
what I
good luck
think,
with that.
I think the only real plausible end game that anyone can say with any reasonable doubt of confidence or some level of percentage that this is probably going to happen is everyone is on their way to what Japan is currently. And basically, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think it's close to 50%. The Japanese central bank owns 50% of all
Yeah,
their sovereign's debt. And so I think the central bank's end game are all the same. And the end game is for the central banks to own 100% of the debt, and then there to be some form of referendum or jubilee that debt then goes and disappears. And no one is
Yeah.
better off for it because
yeah.
they
They're
don't
just
own the
forgiving
debt.
Probably take
They
forgiving
our
their own debt.
lifetime for that to play out, though.
Oh, well, way more than that. It's going to be
Yeah,
probably the year 2150 or something like that.
yeah. No,
It's
you're
not going to
right.
be in
Look,
our
it's
lifetime.
the central bank of Japan owns some roughly 45 to 49% of total outstanding government debt. Yep, or JGBs, Japanese government
Yeah, how much?
bonds.
What was the percent?
Somewhere between 49 to 52% according
That's
to
fucking
Gemini.
insane.
So
That's
yeah, one out of
insane.
every two. One out of every two.
That's insane. Like that's 50% already. That's fucking
Now,
insane.
but here's where it gets
Yeah.
really nuts. When you combine the central bank's holdings with domestic, commercial, and national banks, so just all the banks, they own 60 to 65% of Japan's total sovereign debt. And I'm sure that there's laws there that mandate this and that bank to hold this, a certain
Oh yeah,
amount of
that's coming.
bonds. And
And that's
right,
coming to the U.S. I think that
yeah.
there's going to be a point
So,
in the
so
future.
two thirds,
Yeah,
two thirds is owned by their own banks.
I think there's going to be a point in the future before we get to the point where the central bank is just directly monetizing government spending and absorbing it because the market is too saturated. It's going to be some point in the future where banks and institutions that are domestically controlled are going to just be forced to buy bonds significantly more than they have now.
Hmm.
First, it'll start with friendlier regulations, like they're trying to reduce some of the requirements and stuff on them to allow them to buy more bonds, but then eventually they will be compelled to do so, and then eventually at rates that are below what the market would demand for inflation. And it's kind of similar to what the England and the U.S. did to deal with debt in World War II. I think that exact same thing is going to happen again. But
Well,
we're a
weren't
long way from
Magoo
it, and that's what yield curve control would kind of look like. But it's going to
the
be a
first
really different
innings of it?
world
Yeah.
from the '40s because we have so much more cross-border capital movement now than we had back then. It's going to be a much
Well,
fucking crazier game, but I still think we're like a decade at least away from that.
well, maybe not that
That's
far, not that far out. Magoo, weren't you talking literally about them trying to uh, uh, remove the requirement about bank reserves and instead
Right,
put
that's
in
one of
the
the first steps,
require
I
it
think.
for bonds? Yeah,
yeah, that's gonna be the first step, and that's all from why is my brain blanking? The
Scott Bessent.
economic. No, TX,
Oh.
the economic historian. What's his name? Why is my brain
Russell
blanking?
Napier.
Yeah, Napier. That's whole Napier's whole thesis, basically, of
Yeah,
what he
I've
thinks.
really listened to him a lot for the last few years, and I've gone and read other material about the similar topic, and I think he's pretty right about this. And like, there was something I read about the way that the British dealt with their war debts in the '40s, '50s, and into the '60s, and it's just a lot of compulsion of savers to just eat debasement and hold bonds and things at rates that are not supplementing them for inflation. But the British did it. They also kind of like capped what people could spend money on, and they really controlled their economy. And they basically, there was some language in there basically that like the government decided that its financing needs were more important than any financing or demand needs of the private sector. And so they just
Wow.
made that the case for like 15 years, 20 years, where they suppressed public or private ability to spend on whatever they wanted to spend on. They had capital controls, price controls, compulsion of saving. There were bonds that people had to buy, all kinds of tricks they fucking pull out to try to make their banks and their savers absorb as much of their debt as possible because they didn't want it to all go onto the central bank's balance sheet. They kind of had a different idea about it. And I think something like that is going to happen for the US, but it's like baby steps, right? Because they can't be seen as being too belligerent, because part of what has allowed them to be so powerful financially is that they are the home for global capital. And I think, you know, you look
Yeah,
around different countries, you look at France, Germany, UK, where Japan is, China. I think capital is going to become a lot more adversarial. It's going to lose the freedom to choose its home globally, and different countries are going to essentially call that capital back and return to what used to be called home bias investing. And they're just going to require people in their country to invest in their country. And the last thing I'll say about it is, there's a thing called the UK pension report. I don't know how often they put it out, but the first time I saw the language that got my eye was in 2024. I think it was in Q4 of 24. They put out this UK pension review or something like that. And in there, they're talking about how all these UK pensioners, they're invested in United States assets. Like they've only got 10 to 20% of domestic investments. And they need to change that in order for the UK to grow. And like you see what Rachel Reeves has been dealing with the last couple of years. Uh, it's a fucking mess over there. And I think that is that kind of language of like, we need to make our pensions, our capital work for us and stop allowing it to just go chase whatever return it wants across borders. And like the UK is saying that, and they're one of the biggest economies in the world, the former reserve issuer. I think that's just going to become a domino set. France is going to have to do that. France has a shitload of debt. Germany's going to have to do that. And I think the US is, in that line. They're in that domino rally. It's going to be a fucking mess. And hard assets are going to be important to own, but like capital, I think will have to be directed towards things that are of strategic importance. And we're already kind of seeing that, right? Like a lot of this rearmament talk in Europe, especially in Germany, like they lifted the debt brake just so that they could spend more money rearming. And like all the money that the government here in the US is putting into these AI companies and to try to drive capital towards those things because it thinks it's of strategic importance, because we're in a cold war with China. Like there, we're already starting to see that kind of shit, right? Where there's like implicit government backstops, like contingent liabilities of the state, where they're basically saying, put as much capital as you can into these things. If it goes wrong, we've got your back, but this is where we want you to spend money. Put it here.
Hello,
Yeah.
communism.
Yeah, dude.
Well, it's more like authoritarianism than communism. But yeah, big,
Yeah.
big, powerful central authority.
Yeah. Command economy,
Yeah,
kind of like
Yeah,
what
right,
command
China's
right.
economy.
doing.
Yeah.
Picking, more direct
Capitalism
picking
with
of
Chinese characteristics.
yes, yeah, more direct picking of winners and losers.
Right.
Less like let's favorable tax treatment if you are in this sector. No, no, no. It's more like let's directly invest in Intel.
Yeah. And maybe
Yep,
eventually it gets to a point where there's certain discouraging policies to try to keep capital from going into parts of the economy that they don't think are very important. Like I think when
for
people
sure.
hear yield curve control or financial oppression, they just think everything is going to be hugely inflated. Every asset's going to go to the moon. It's just going to be Weimar hyperinflation. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be that. I think it's going to be a lot more choppy, and you're just going to lose the freedom to put your money where you want over time. It's going to erode around the margins, especially for like the big pensioners and people who manage like billions, trillions of dollars. It's going to change a lot for them. And the end result will be that, people who don't own hard assets will probably get fucked even more.
Yeah, that hamster wheel is spinning fast. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest difference that I vividly remember late 90s, almost year 2000, where like, your father and your uncles especially, and maybe even your older cousins, everyone had a trading account, and they were trying to, they were riding that internet wave, that internet bubble. They didn't know it at the time, but it was. But it was more like it did. It was more like a hobby. It sounded and looked more like it was for fun. Now, no, this is more like it really does feel like for a lot of millennials and Gen Z too,
It's a
there's almost
must.
a yeah, you must. It's like this is your side hustle. This is like you majored in whatever degree you did coming out of uni or college, and this is your minor. Uh, Getting ahead on your finances if you ever want to hope to have a comfortable life and retire young.
Yeah.
We're cooked. We're cooked. What? Going back to like the Bitcoin strategic reserve that got us on this topic, like I think MicroStrategies is the Bitcoin strategic reserve. To be all honest, not even like tinfoil hatty. I think the goal is to get as many Americans invested or exposed to the Bitcoin price, and pack their bags, whether that's through the IBITs or whether that's through any other ETFs or through MicroStrategies.
Hmm.
That's the reserve, right? Because these companies or these custodials are all under the jurisdiction of the United States, and it does exponentially more beneficial things for America if private citizens are the ones that expose
Yes,
to the price exposure on the way up. Because they're the
yes,
ones that are going to be stimulating the economy with those gains. Like think of it this way: between MicroStrategies and the IBIT or IBIT ETF, like how many Bitcoin is that? It's close to what, like almost 2 million
I
or
think
getting
so.
close.
I haven't
Get
looked at the ETF
yeah.
balances, but I think it's above 600K.
yeah. So we're talking about like if Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin actually does something magnificent over the next 20 years, and Bitcoin goes from 60,000 to like 2 million over the next 20 years.
Well, I should hope more than 2 million, but okay.
Well, that come on, Matt, put your dick away.
But no, but that's barely
But
like, wait, 20 years? What is that, like a 15% CAGR?
Yeah.
Basically what
It-
the
Man,
S&P
that's
does.
oh, that's
yeah,
but over
right.
20
But
years with man, that's
People who
almost
think
all
it's
right.
going to be a
Fine, fine.
30%
20.
CAGR forever are fucking
Well,
lunatic.
I didn't say 30.
No,
I was
you
like,
didn't say that. You didn't say
can
that.
I get 20? Like, what about 20? I'm in my
Right.
bargaining phase of
okay, so
depression.
if you get to 2 million from this price, that's a 3,000% increase.
Yeah, but over 20 years.
Yeah, I know, but
Okay.
ultimately, if Bitcoin can get to, let's just say 2 million, let's forget about time because I don't want to
All right.
trigger Matt here.
Yeah, come
Who's
on. I'm not a
um
spring chicken anymore.
yeah.
I'm a millennial
So
here.
let's say Bitcoin gets to 2 million, whatever date that is. If America owns accumulatively across direct holdings in paper or an on paper way, and then the paper ways through IBIT and through MicroStrategies, there's probably going to be collectively like close to probably 5 million Bitcoin exposure. So the US is probably going to own 25 to 35% of the entire network, right?
Yeah.
Probably higher than that in terms of actual coins that aren't lost. So if the US owns 30% of the supply of Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin goes from 60,000 to $2 million, like just pull out your little fucking Sam Squanch of a calculator, which I'm doing here now. So let's say between Americans that they own 5 million Bitcoin, and you times that by 2 million. What does that get you? $10 trillion, right?
Hmm.
So that's direct stimulus that would be going into the economy, not like all at once, but over as time goes on.
Yeah, it's an
Um,
incredible churn and
yeah,
yeah,
and so that's the real gain or the real benefit where it makes sense for the American people. If the American people actually own it, because they're actually going to sell it and use the money, they're actually going to take Bitcoin back loans to get money and keep the Bitcoin and create more dollars in the system. That's what they're going to do over the next 20 years. That's the benefit. If the US just sits on like a million Bitcoin and does nothing, that does absolutely nothing
yep.
mechanically for the economy.
So,
Yeah,
Magoo, do you think that
worse
they
you run the risk that they debase your currency just to buy it and you're not even gaining anything.
exactly they're the ones gaining it and then they're going to sell it
Yep.
back to you to make the money, the private sector who is already not the one who got the price pumped in the first place, the same private sector that
Yeah.
bought all their bonds? No, it's not going to happen.
Well, not to mention you run the risk of any future president or executive who just doesn't like it or is a terrible capital allocator. They just sell it at a really terrible time
Well, they have
or
that
dump it
language in there
immediately.
that you
And
can't unless it's national security. So they have to come up
yeah,
with a reason. But
but the executive branch decides what's national security or
that's
not.
true. That's true. So
So
like,
it's all.
let me ask. I think that's an interesting thesis,
Yep.
Magoo. But let me say something and then ask you a question. So we've seen like you're talking about proxy instruments, right? Which are held by state compliant entities, big monolithic corporations and things that will do whatever the government tells them to do. And that people, Americans, have exposure to those instruments in their brokerages or whatever. They don't actually have the Bitcoin in self custody. And the marginal new Bitcoin investor these days is that person. They don't have BTC, they have IBIT or they have whatever the fuck else, right? They have MSTR or they have something. Maybe they have it at Fidelity. Maybe they have the ability to withdraw it and they just fucking don't. Most people don't. And so, if we're going to have more and more people have exposure to the price of Bitcoin, but they don't actually have the core benefits of the actual technology, which is the ability to spend it and carry it borderlessly and all these kind of things, if they're not going to have that, first of all, I think that that leaves the US in a very advantageous position, obviously, because then they're not going to necessarily have that is the loss of the freedom of capital in their world, right? What we were talking about before, because people can't just take their coins and run. It's sitting in their fucking Schwab brokerage or wherever the fuck because it's represented in equity shares. It's not, they don't actually have the BTC. But so if we're in that world, my question to you is, do you think people would be levering up like an IBIT holding in their brokerage? Like, how are
Thousand
you
four
can't post
hundred
Bitcoin for collateral
four
if you don't have it, right?
400 million% yes.
So,
And the reason why I say that because it's already being done today by sophisticated institutional players.
Can you talk a little
And
more about that so I can understand?
so what happens is there is now massive institutions that hold spot Bitcoin and are doing more sophisticated things with said Bitcoin. From basically doing carry trades, doing option spread trades, doing a lot of different sophisticated things to get yield out of their Bitcoin, and they're also using it as collateral to basically take other positions. There are places out there where you can get margin for your Bitcoin right now in a
You're
big
talking
way.
about spot, or you mean like IBIT?
IBIT.
Okay.
You can literally use IBIT as collateral, and like you can use Bitcoin too, but you can use
Right.
IBIT.
Right.
That's why if you go look at the volume of IBIT options, it's fucking insane. Um, there is a
Yeah, I
lot
knew
of
you
people.
could do it with spot BTC,
Yeah,
but
you
yeah,
you're
I'm
st-
thinking like
you
if you're
pe-
a
there's
regular person, let's say you're not a hedge fund, but you're just like a, you know, borderline high net worth, middle net worth American, and you just have IBIT in your brokerage in your retirement account. Like, how are you going to lever that up?
you're going to leverage it up by using the IBIT as collateral. And I think it's only going to become more predominant, right? Because you get into this weird scenario where the sooner you get into Bitcoin, the more locked it becomes because you never actually want to sell it because you'll realize the gains. And we're already, well, I don't want to say we, but you're already seeing this with GBTC. GBTC has been a product in one shape or a form or another for, I don't know, almost 10 years. And so you have people that have a cost basis of GBTC that is so fucking low that they right now don't even mind paying the massive premium on the fees of GBTC compared to any other Bitcoin ETF because they cannot transfer it to another ETF because they would have to take a massive fucking capital gains event. And so the more and more that people hold this as like a staple in their portfolios, individuals right now, it's not happening, but on a massive, like a big institutional level, people are doing that. Or I guess institutions are doing that, and they're never going to sell, and they have to then have the decision. It's like, well, if I'm never going to sell this, there needs to be something that I can do with this. And so what has started is the industry has reacted to all these people with this specific problem and have created facilities and are starting to create facilities to create sophisticated, let's call it option strategies, where you can use either, you can use it, they'll do it for anything. You can do it with spot Bitcoin, you can do it with IBIT, you can do it with any of these Bitcoin ETFs for the most part. And you can create these interesting strategies, whether you're holding, either you're using it directly to get margin, or whether you're using it in a combination with another sleeve of the trade, whether you're doing something with options and you're doing covered call options, whether you're doing carry trades, whether you're doing spread strategies, or there is a million things that people are trying to offer to really reel in these people who have this demand or this need to be able to do something with either their Bitcoin or their Bitcoin affiliated product, ETF in this case, that cannot take a capital gains, meaning they cannot sell it. And so that is now really accelerating in the industry. And it's only going to continue to accelerate. Where if I have, like, for example, the scenario that we just talked about Bitcoin going to 2 million. I don't want to say a date because Matt might get triggered. But right now, IBIT is $34. Now imagine if you buy IBIT today at $34 and you're a long-term believer in Bitcoin and you've put it as a core thesis in a thematic portfolio or just any portfolio, whether it's actively managed or just passive, and IBIT over the next 10, 20 years goes to $3,000. Do you think anyone in their right fucking mind, even if they think at any given time Bitcoin can correct 50%, are they going to take a capital gains event by their cost basis is $34 and the sell price is $3,400, not a fucking chance. They're going to use it to gain margin to basically leverage that capital without taking a capital hit, or create yield strategies off of that to get yield on that without having to basically sell it, right? That's the trap. And that's what Bitcoin is going to be used for, not to be a fucking talking billboard for the Bitcoin faggots on this website, but the collateral asset of Bitcoin, that scenario I just painted is literally that. As the price goes up and people hold on to these assets, and they're going to be less likely to sell just because that cap gain hit, and they're going to be using these products in a real collateral form, and these facilities are going to create facilities and things to attract these people to basically say, yeah, bring your shit here. We can do all these sophisticated things with your 34-bit IBIT cost basis shares that we can fucking do all sorts of crazy things with.
Yeah.
Like that, like over the next, like I'm not telling this tomorrow, but
Right.
this is projecting what I'm seeing currently in the industry, in the market, of what's being demanded and what these facilities, these brokerages, these OTC desks, these exchanges are starting to offer, right? And it's funny because it's not even really coming and stemming from the exchanges and the facilities. It's literally stemming from the demand of these people. Like it really started, I want to say, in almost this cycle, 2024, 2025, where you had Bitcoin OGs finally come on to the idea of using their Bitcoin in a TradFi capacity. People who have been sitting on thousands upon thousands of Bitcoins being like, okay, I've sat on these coins now and I have a cost basis of less than $10 on each coin. I'm sitting on 10,000 coins, or I'm sitting on 20,000 coins. I don't want to sell it because I'm just going to absolutely get eviscerated on cap gains. I need something, this needs to generate income for me, right? And they've literally went to these facilities being like, look, I have 10,000 Bitcoins. I need to make a fucking living. I don't have a job. Please make me some money, you bitch. And they've come up with all these fancy fucking products to give them.
Hey, you want to hear something a little depressing?
Bitcoin.
If Bitcoin gets to 2 million in 20 years, that's a 19% compound annual growth rate. It would take a 19% CAGR to get to 2 million in 20 years. I did the math.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I deep dive on that, TX, respond to everything I just said.
Yeah. So I like your idea. I think it's really interesting. I'm going to think about it some more. I think that it is. I think just this whole idea that we've been talking about here of getting Americans invested in Bitcoin through proxy instruments that are run by giant state compliant entities so that they enjoy the price gains and it boosts the wealth effect
Yep.
without without the
That's the goal.
Yep.
Trojan horse of people being able to take capital flight out of U.S. assets, right, in an
Yep.
uncontrollable way.
Yep.
I think that that's
Yep.
really appealing to the government, as especially as the fucking fiat fiscal spiral continues to deepen, and they start doing the things that I was talking about before when I was ranting about capital controls and limited freedom and stuff. I really think that it supports that a lot. I want to learn more about this because I got to think through like what
Well,
ways other than just buying other
yeah.
assets, like what ways would people be able to use this levering? Like would they consume with it? Like would they buy goods and services with it? Because that's really
Well,
what the economy needs is GDP, right? And buying and selling financial assets can only take you so far with that. You really got to have actual like physical goods and services being
So
sold.
they will
yeah, but
there
not
will be
necessarily because, or if I
there
may, because I think that Bitcoiners they make this mistake where they think that somehow it's a letdown unless I literally buy that cup of coffee with Bitcoin from point to sale, from my wallet to yours. Even though like it's kind of silly, it's kind of a moot point. At the very really like technology is advancing to the point where it's really there already. At the very last millisecond, when I wave my Bitcoin wallet in front of the kiosk, at the very last millisecond, the Bitcoin converts to US dollar. It pays it in
Bingo.
US dollar, and it switches back. Right? That's fine. That does it. But to the Bitcoin maxi toxic purists, somehow that's not the same thing, and they lose their fucking mind.
So that mentality is going to completely disappear over the next 5 to 10 years, in my humble opinion. I don't want it to. And I've had the opinion for the longest time now that I truly believe that the Bitcoin revolution that everyone's talked about is going to happen outside of the United States. And for all of those reasons, I've talked about why there's the capital control net that is in the United States and the product that they're creating to kind of force these people into walled gardens. If you really want to put on a tinfoil hat, you can actually make a pretty strong case that the US government is the ones that are actually behind Bitcoin, and they're using it basically the way that they see fit to basically create the environment. It's basically the whole like the theory of like being the world's reserve currency creates other problems in your economy, right? Like it basically makes it so you are a next the only thing you
Right.
export is dollars, right? And that's what you have to be the supplier of the world to is dollars. So it gets you in, and it basically hollows out your manufacturing base, and it just turns you into a consumer economy that produces really nothing. The only thing you produce is dollars, right?
Right.
And you could
Or like right now, you got a crisis in the Middle East, and this and that friendly country is up against a rock and a hard place, and they want you to provide liquidity to help them out. And so you're constantly having to debase and paper over problems because, well, are you going to just cut your allies off? You're the reserve, they're your friends,
yeah.
and you're supposed to be the reserve currency.
So
So yeah.
whether or not the US government was behind the creation of Bitcoin or not, they have definitely jumped on the train and are using it as a weapon um, in any sense of the word. Not just internally within the country, but to external and other countries as well to project power. Like what Bitcoin can do to project power, it can literally eviscerate any country that has low to no or weak capital controls. Because everything that TX just talked about basically making sure your citizens cannot be transacting in Bitcoin and using its real sovereign properties, the US can force that into another country because if they don't have the capital controls like the US does, and only maybe one or two other countries in the world have the same capability, you can introduce not just Bitcoin, but stable coins to literally disrupt like financial terrorism, to disrupt another nation's ability to have their own sovereign monetary policy and currency. Um, and if you can do that at the same time by benefiting your own country and people's wealth by basically inflating this asset that does not have any real world effect on any consumer good, it might affect electricity and power generation, but obviously not that much. Bitcoin can go to $5 million a coin tomorrow, and it doesn't affect anyone's ability to live the life that they're currently living, right? Whereas if you did this to real estate, if real estate prices doubled and doubled again, you would have a revolution on your hand. But Bitcoin can double, 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 and do a double, double, and it will never affect the cost of living for the most part. Unless you really juice it really, really fast and create this massive wealth effect where people went from having $1,000 to now having fucking $20 million, which really is not going to happen. So you can really use this as a weapon if you can create the wall gardens to the point where your citizens are somehow getting a price exposure as you inflate this asset class, and they're not actually using the sovereign properties, but other nations around the world, their citizens are using it in a sovereign way, basically rebuking their sovereign monetary policy by not using their currency and using Bitcoin and or stable coins. Then it's a win-win for the United States, in my opinion, if you
Yeah.
use it in a way that is
Yeah.
advantageous,
I
like I
think
just
that's
described.
true. I think for other countries, for the US, they would prefer it with stable coins because then that allows them to project their own currency's dominance a little more than if it was Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's a bit more subversive against their own currency in other places. But I do agree
But
generally
so
with the
is the
thing you're saying.
US. But I mean, so is the US dollar. We see how I mean, if you allow U.S. dollar stablecoins into your country, and you've got your own inflation and debasement problems locally, like it's no
Oh
contest.
yeah,
It's
it's those countries are fucked. I mean, there's 100 countries at least in the world who their governments are not strong enough to credibly enforce a monetary policy like on their own people, and their own people saving all kinds of other shit, and it's in Africa, and some places in Latin
I
America.
would say that there's probably only two other countries in the world that can ultimately force walled gardens on their population. I think it's Russia and China. Even the European countries, I don't think they have the capability to suppress their citizens to the point of not being able to use Bitcoin or US dollar stablecoins. They can try. Europe would be the next third best option. But one thing about Europeans is they're one feisty bunch of motherfuckers. And they've already imported, I don't know, 20% of the third world into their countries. They're already unstable. You light one match into that fucking fume box, it's going to fucking explode. I don't think European politicians at this point have any political capital to do anything that is jarring, because I think you would probably see close to revolutionary environments in some of these European countries.
Yeah,
Europe is like super beautiful. Like if you go there on vacation, it's super beautiful.
yeah, I love it. I love it.
You stay away from like the fucking tourist traps, and you stay away from all that bullshit. But like if you get into the heart of France, you get into the heart of Germany, or you get into some of the even some of the tourist places in Italy, it
Hmm.
is just overrun by whether it's legal or illegal immigration, and it's not even good immigration. It's bad immigration. You can say that's subjective, but it's pretty obviously bad. And
But you
there
can
is
feel that you can say it.
you can
You
feel the
can feel the
tension.
no, you can feel the poverty, unfortunately, in a lot of
Yeah.
areas. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think the term Europort came from? Like that didn't just come out of the fucking ether. Well, it did, but it came out of the reality of the ether. And so you have, let's say, the ECB trying to dictate, because realistically, like if they try to dictate some policy, like they introduce some Euro CBDC or whatever, do you honestly think that those Europeans would not be using a US dollar stablecoin if they could, or storing some wealth in a USD stablecoin, or using Bitcoin? Like I don't think the ECB or the Eurozone can stop them from doing so.
no,
Like not like
Hmm.
Russia can or China can or the US can, right? Now you
Well,
now
especially. Oh,
go
oops, sorry.
full
Go ahead.
port to like Africa or go full port to South America. Like, do you think those countries have any lick of a split chance of stopping it? No.
no. I
Well,
mean,
you know
the,
what's next.
the
So
EU's already.
to
Go
tie it
ahead, man.
back to clarity. The real next shoe to drop is what happens when the current major stable coins and maybe future stable coins, what happens when they decide to gain future customers here and abroad? They start adding interest on holding their stable coin. And so here's one, we're going to shave off some of the interest that we're making on the treasuries, and that's just so like you choose our stablecoin instead of Tether, or instead of the competition. So all of a sudden, you're getting a better rate than keeping your money in the bank, and there's the perceived safety because I'm in J.P. Morgan stablecoin, U.S. dollar stablecoin, and J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs or maybe it's USDC or whomever, they're giving me 1% or 2% or even 3% on my money to hold a stable coin, and I'm here in Europe or I'm here in South Africa or I'm here in Nigeria, and I can sit in US dollar equivalent and earn 3%. Like, and that's not a crazy percentage. That's literally what you get for like sitting in SoFi or Robinhood or some of these cash money markets that are available right now. So like that's to me that's the next. How do you compete if you're again not even a Venezuela or an Argentina? That's too easy. How do you compete if you're in Europe? You're just a citizen in Spain or Italy or Greece or even in the UK, and like I can hold British pounds, but I see what the chart says. The British pound is kind of losing to the dollar over time, and if I sit in dollars, it earns me. I can earn 3% doing nothing. I'm just my cash, and it's not some Johnny come lately bank I've never heard of. It's J.P. Morgan, or it's Bank of America. Like, to me, that's the end game boss I see with the way Clarity is going. Now, the you've got a bunch of TradFi legacy banks that are kicking and screaming, but eventually it'll happen. And when it does, it just seems so obvious that to fight for new customers, to make my stablecoin more attractive than your stablecoin, they're going to put a little interest on it. And then obviously customers are going to go to the biggest interest, of course.
Cooked. Capital K.
Yeah, I think EU is ripe to be disrupted by some kind of financial chaos, just because the single currency experiment is kind of like running out of.
Held.
Yeah, it's kind of
It's
bobbing
only as
for
good
air a
as your
little bit.
weakest members. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the biggest economies there, like they, especially France, which has the biggest debt markets in Europe, like they very much are kind of drowning in debt, especially non-financial debt, and they need to spend more money than the EU wants them to spend in order to help kind of grow and do what we were talking about, try to drive investment, kind of have like a financial repression of their own. And I think that like it's just kind of a matter of time before the single currency controlling 20 economies kind of dissolves and then we revert back to
Yeah.
some
It,
previous
like
system.
even
I mean, they
even
all
on
have a
like a
rough.
fiat
Go
stand,
ahead.
even on like the fiat standard of like truly understanding what central planning of a currency is and the modification of interest rates and all these other things like you have to understand that that is strictly tied, if you are going to central plan, it is strictly tied to the underlying nature of a specific economy, that whether you raise interest rates or whether you lower interest rates is totally dependent on so many different silos within an economy, debt structures, the type of economy, is it an import or an export, is it a consuming economy, all these different things that determine what you should do when you central plan for an economy. Let's just throw in fucking 20 countries that look nothing alike in terms of their economy, and let's try to control them by one fucking interest rate and put them on one currency. So if you have an importing nation that's like the top of the top, and then you have the third world country that is basically an exporter, and they need basically low cost of labor, and they're producing exports. Like, you honestly think the same currency is going to be beneficial for those two countries and the same interest rates? Like, you have to be a fucking absolute idiot. Like, if you understand anything about the modern economics that we're in, that's fucking ass backwards, right? Like, you've created this monetary system which basically states that you can do all these funky hunky Keynesian, let's just call it Keynesian economic theory, things within an economy, and then the same principles that you're supposed to be following to do these policies completely do not make sense when you're doing it for multiple economies. But let's continue to do that and see what happens. Like, it's just fucking asinine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all these systems are gonna be on their last legs in the coming like decade and a half. Like people think the monetary system is gonna collapse next year if we don't print a bunch of money. I think it's got a long way to go, but
There-
it's
There's
pretty
so many
clear.
there's so many billions of people that you can still onboard to US
Right,
dollar and US treasuries.
right.
It's
I
not
think the
it's not
U.S.
collapsing
realizing that
tomorrow.
stable coins can be a tool for their like statecraft, I think
Yep.
gives them another couple more innings to try to, rather than where before they tried to present themselves as like the benevolent power, who's the mediator in the room, who's trying to bring global trade agreements together. Now they've become more belligerent and they're an antagonist, which is kind of like the switch from the republic to the empire, and that's a whole other final act for the monetary system, and it could take a couple decades, into our old lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
In
I'm just
terms of what the US can do, to your earlier question and point, Magoo and TSMC, that it's not Bitcoin Treasury or strategic reserve. It's like they did 2 years ago with spot Bitcoin ETF. It's every little law or congressional act or executive order that allows for more orange pilling and onboarding, like that. The spot SEC finally capitulating and allow spot Bitcoin ETFs. I can't think of a bigger um, um, bullish catalyst for Bitcoin in my in recent history. That was huge. That one could argue that would, no matter what they tried to do with a strategic reserve, that would always be a bigger effect, because you're right, it's private ownership to American citizens that could scale to as many as that are interested, and who will, and American citizens who, of their own volition, at their own choosing, can deploy that capital into future businesses or attractive investments or whatever. Meanwhile, you're right. The U.S., like, they would just treat it like gold. They would probably forget about it,
Right.
or worse, sell it at the worst times. It's just, so anything that, like, maybe it's Clarity Act, maybe it's other things like solidifying laws solidifying around like ownership, because around this bearer asset, but anything that helps establish Bitcoin as legit, that's really the best thing they could do.
Yeah, I think like this we're in the first couple of years of the ETFs, and it's clearly been a bit of an exit liquidity moment for big time OGs, kind of to what Magoo was saying, like there's these dudes sitting on like 10, 15,000 BTC. I'm just making up a number, but there's a lot of old holders with huge stacks that haven't done anything for a really fucking long time because there literally hasn't been an entity large enough to absorb their fucking stack for them or to do anything with it. Some of them are putting it to work in other ways, which was Magoo was describing those different new vehicles and stuff. But a lot of them just sold their coins to the ETFs. And they came alive when these new buyers entered the market. And I think we go through a couple of years of this where the ETFs continue to kind of absorb the free float that's available to them, and then maybe we start to see more of like a consistent bullish drive from them pulling in more investors than we've seen in the last couple of years. But one thing I wanted to add, Magoo, I was looking at your tweet to Cynthia Lummis where you said, "Who's going to tell her you don't have to pay the debt if you have it as an offsetting asset?" And
Yeah,
the
right.
it's that's funny, but I think it's I would twist it a little bit because I don't think that it matters that the U.S. has an offsetting asset because as far as a fiat
The
sovereign goes,
people.
they don't have an asset side of their balance sheet the way that you and I do or a business does, where they have assets that they then issue against because they can just make money, right? But I think the asset sheet that matters is the private sector, which is what we've been talking about, because ultimately the asset side for the US is its bicoastal landmass, its network of rivers, all of its natural resources, the wealthiest consumer
Yeah,
base
fresh
on the planet, our innovative technology
deep water
companies.
ports.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, literally the things that drive GDP, which is buying and selling of goods and services, right? Like that is actually the asset side. And so by the US, this is what I've tried to hammer home to people about the reserve. By the US buying BTC, they aren't driving GDP up. They aren't increasing economic activity. They're just puffing up an asset. But if you can get Americans to own exposure to that thing and pump it up, then you actually have some kindling to drive your economy higher in a period where you have to issue a lot of debt, or like things like entitlements start to look really ugly. And so you kind of need the actual asset side of the balance sheet that matters isn't the US. This is why Cynthia Lummis is wrong. This is why people who talk about it offsetting anything are wrong. It's the people and the businesses that are domestically controlled, that are under the umbrella of the government, that live here, that pay taxes here, that are part of the taxable base. Like, those are the people who matter for owning this fucking shit. And so those are the ones that need to
yeah.
be incentivized to own it. I think
And
if the US, the
The
last thing I'll say,
country.
if the
Oh, go ahead.
US wants to be the home of Bitcoin, they don't need to buy a bunch of fucking Bitcoin. They need to make this the most friendly place for businesses and households to use it and utilize it and build on top of it.
Yeah, and just
Right,
on that note,
100%.
I just looked at the ETF holdings. So all the ETFs alone have 1.2 million Bitcoin in holdings, which is roughly 77 billion today. And
Wow.
then
Yeah,
MicroStrategies has roughly what 800-ish thousand Bitcoin.
Yeah, so 2
So
million.
yeah.
yeah, so that's 2 million Bitcoin, which is basically 10-ish, right,
Yeah.
percent of the supply, and relatively probably like 15% of the actual supply that's not
Yeah.
lost.
I have a chart on
Um,
Glassnode that shows the rate
Wow.
that ETFs and treasury companies have been acquiring supply. And over the last couple of years, since 2024, they've averaged about 3 to 3.5% of the outstanding supply per year that they've bought. So, that's not going to go on forever because it can't. But that kind of gives you an idea of how to think, like how fast they're doing this. It's about 3% a year.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, from March 30th, or actually no, from like basically the beginning of April, IBIT went from 780,000 and they peaked basically in the beginning of May to 820. And now this sell off, they're back down to 800. So honestly, the way that this is looking, it's like they're accumulating Bitcoin as the price goes up, and when the price goes down, only a little bit of a sliver is actually leaving.
Hmm.
Like even in the 2020,
Yeah.
like if you just look
But
at
that
it,
but
like
that
it's
makes a lot of sense because
oh, it does, yeah, 100%.
logically, if we think about it, you could only be buying IBIT at 2024 prices, which is more or less the same price as today. So
Yeah, like at
yeah,
this rate, like I wouldn't be surprised if IBIT gets to 2 million Bitcoin by in the next fucking like 5 to fucking 7 years,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, easily. Yeah. I mean,
which is kind.
it's, I mean, the cold wallet maxis aren't going to love it, but hey, it's a both relatively safe and easy and secure way to onboard new Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
Imagine anytime in the future if like they lose private keys.
Oh,
Well,
dude.
uh, yeah. How does that insurance work?
They don't have enough insurance. Let me just say that, and they
Okay.
never
Yeah.
will. They
Yeah,
never will.
like self custody is obviously important, and I only have self custody. I don't need to tell you guys that, but I think like Bitcoiners have to kind of rationalize the fact that the government is embracing BTC, but they are going to be actively opposed to encouraging self custody. I mean, you never fucking hear about it. It's just not a priority for them. They want you to be interested in this thing that they can pump, which supports Magoo's thesis, but they don't want you to own it yourself. They don't want you to be able to have the freedom to spend it however you want and take it wherever you want. They just want you to have the exposure and to sit in their little corral of capital so they can make you do whatever they want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Just keep you fat and
we're not
happy
we're
with
not
your
to the point
unrealized
we're not
gains.
to the point of China, but yeah,
No.
no one's in favor of capital flight, so they're not trying to do you any favor. Yeah,
Right, but like,
That's why they're pushing everyone to the ETFs,
yeah,
bro. Like,
for sure,
exactly.
for
and
sure.
Because,
and that's part of the reason why I think Gensler was kind of forced to approve them, because it was like
yeah.
either you approve it or these people start actually getting direct ownership, and we do not want that.
Exactly. Like, there's, it's really popular in Bitcoin conversations to talk about how we're going to have yield curve control. But I think if you got to really think about it, like the only way they can really do that is to control capital flight. And there's in today's interconnected world, that is much fucking harder to do than it was 80 years ago. And so one of the most effective instruments for capital flight is Bitcoin. And so if they just get everyone thinking that they're getting freedom money, but they're actually just buying like proxy exposure that's actually run by some
Yeah,
owned by some
it's the
massive
government's wallet.
corporation. Yeah,
Exactly.
like they're just going to be fat and happy with it. Their education will stop there, and they'll just think that they've won when actually they're still under the control of the same state.
Yeah. Well, they want you to uh, be born here, live here, grow prosperous here, and retire here, and
Yeah,
keep all that
and
capital
spend your
here.
money
And
here.
Yes, exactly. And
Why do you think there's an
keep
exit
all that
tax?
capital here.
What?
Yes, spend your money here.
Why do you think there's an exit tax?
Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure. Yeah. It's not free to leave, but yeah, there's your signal. Um, yeah.
We might have a daily close above yesterday's low or yesterday's close. I mean, so maybe this could be the forming of a bottom, guys.
But
The low
but
is
Unlikely,
this
in
but
full
but this was
port at
what I was
59.
talking about. Like, don't be surprised if we just float here through the weekend. And then
Yeah.
I could think it could easily just be as simple as that. Like Magoo, we started this thing with saying, in terms of daily RSI, we have not been this oversold since 2018. It's scream like 9 times out of 10, that's screaming for some sort of at least complacency bounce.
Some relief. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, you
doesn't
would
mean
think
that
so.
it doesn't mean that after the SpaceX IPO, this time next Friday or next Monday, sure, we could absolutely go tag 58 or 55. Sure, but that's next week's problem. I want to live. I want to live
we're
in the.
Guys,
just
I
so
want to live in
daily
the
is
fucking.
green.
sunshine. I want to dream about 19% CAGR to 2 million.
The daily is green, boys.
Right. The
Yeah,
daily's green. The
exactly.
daily's green.
The daily is green by
That's some silver
$4
lining.
Yeah, yeah. I don't.
We
Yeah,
just
four
need to
dollars.
hold. We
But
need to hold 23 hours for the green candle, the daily green.
Well, I hate to do this, but I gotta go,
you
guys. I
don't.
have to. My kids got some baseball tomorrow. I gotta get to sleep. But I really enjoyed it. You're like the only two guys that I can have these long conversations with anymore. I can't fucking stand going in most other spaces. I was about to pull my hair out yesterday when I was in a space with Gary Cardone. It took me like an
Oh,
hour to come up
jeez.
with something to say because I
Oh.
was just making a mental list of all the things I disagreed with that he was saying. No offense to him or anything,
Everything.
but I just can't be in some of these spaces.
It's his first. It's his first bear market. First cycle.
Oh yeah,
If
it
you
Yeah.
is,
could have just
isn't it?
heard him slurping Sailor's Hog, it was just, and he was talking about cash on the sidelines and money market funds. I was literally smashing my face into the wall.
He was talking about. I listened to a space for like maybe 10 minutes. No, not even 5 minutes. And he was going off on some guy about not being a real player. He's not on the same level as Gary Cardone buying Bitcoin or whatever. I don't know what he was trying to make a point about. Or like he was trying to make a point about like all these losers on this app are poor or whatever, right? And then I seen a post the same day where he was like flexing or showing a receipt where he bought 1.37 Bitcoin or whatever about like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then I look at my trade blotter, my personal trade blotter, and I've like traded in the last like 2 weeks. I've traded like 20x his volume, and I'm just like, oh, who's a player
Yeah,
here?
I don't know very much about Gary. He's in a lot of the spaces and things, but I do know. Yeah, he was talking to Tao earlier today about how he had this company that tried to help fight against chargebacks for businesses and things like that. And I went and looked it up, and I'd forgotten it was Chargebacks 911, and they had a suit pressed against them by the FTC for unfair practices. And I was like, why are you bragging about this, dude?
Could
Yeah, I
have
remember
led
that
one.
when I remember that when that first came up. When did that come up? That came up in the last cycle when Grant
Yeah, and I
Cardone came
completely
in, and
forgot, dude.
someone posted the story that basically like 911 chargebacks got like hit by the CFTC for like bad practice. I never even looked to see how that case
I don't either,
finished.
and I'm not
I
trying to
don't
make
even-
this a bash space on someone I don't know that really, but I thought about it earlier when I heard him telling Tao about how he had a.
the funniest, the fun. The, I think I honestly think the funniest part of that whole story is that he was talking to
Oh yeah,
Tao.
they were in the asteroid guys' space, and they were the only two guys talking. And like that dude can just talk for 10 years, and so he just kept on going, and he was talking to Tao about his financial services company, and it was something to behold.
Wow, chargebacks is one fucking hell of an industry. It's kind of
Yeah,
fucking hilarious.
It's like the repo market of finances, I guess. Is that
yeah,
essentially?
yeah. But I'm glad we got to talk about the strategic reserve because like I've been wanting to get on a space and talk about that and have other people listen to us talk through it and how silly some of the ideas are and how it's actually probably more useful to just have the people own that shit rather than the government.
Yeah. No, it would be way more beneficial for like the next like 2 years, just like continue to talk about it, sure, as a government, but just let all the citizens buy
Yeah, right.
Bitcoin.